This is Greg Pruitt, formerly of the Cleveland Browns, and you're listening to The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, like us on Facebook today. Facebook.com/The Sports Fix.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix@AOL.com. That's thesportsfix@AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Fantasy Jocks. Visit fantasyjocks.com, your fantasy sports superstore. Championship belts, rings, trophies, and more.
Live in Ohio, it's time to get your fix. The Sports Fix.
Welcome in. The madness has begun. Look, I told you guys I love this weekend as it is, but was it yesterday just not? I've got to tell you, I don't know. I've thought back already through 2015. There's been a couple of awesome Cavaliers nights here that we've seen, and, it was a great Super Bowl and stuff like that, but man, yesterday, I believe, is the greatest day thus far in sports for me in 2015 as far as enjoying myself. I know it's early in the year, so there's a lot of time for that statement to have a different answer. But, man, yesterday was awesome. Awesome across the board. If you're any kind of a hoops fan at all, amazing stuff yesterday. I got a couple of them, missed on a couple of them. I'll tell you, everybody's got stories like that. The fish that got away. UAB ticked me off because I go through the brackets every year and I pick a couple of 15, 14, 13, and I decide which ones I think have the best chance to go through. I changed my bracket yesterday morning at about 11 o'clock right before we went on the air, and I would have had that one because I had that upset as one of my 14 threes, and I switched it around or about 11 o'clock in the morning, and I switched one of the other ones instead. I don't know what made me do it, but anyways, I'm going to update you guys anyways on the our bracket challenge here. Everybody's bracket busted by a couple of them yesterday, but man, what a game. We had a little bit of everything. I mean, players going down, miraculous shots, foul shots, overtimes, I mean, goaltending, you name it. And there was a little bit of everything in the way those games went yesterday. Kentucky began their march to history and so much more. We're going to talk a lot here early on about yesterday's March Madness. Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland will be with us just about 10 minutes from now. He's going to join us. We'll talk about that with Eddy, talk about the brackets and all of that. Look ahead, the Buckeyes. We're going to get into that here in just a minute. Overtime thriller, and Ohio State advances. That gut feeling, I guess, was right about that one, man. Ohio State moves on to take on Arizona. We're talking about all of that. Of course, when Eddy's here, we're talking Cavs hoops as well, so going to be a lot of fun with him. Jeff Gorman, we're talking some Browns, and Bowe comes officially into town. We got a lot to do. Tribe, Monsters, Vikings know who they're playing next, man. There's a lot of things to get into here in this end of the week edition of the Sports Fix, you guys. Let's get rolling. You ready? Because I'm ready. Welcome in to the Sports Fix, you guys. I'm your host, the Big Daddy on the microphone, J-Rocc, Jerry Myers, many names, many hats. Call me what you will. Just call me. Happy to have you here with us each and every day. Live at noon, every weekday that is, live at noon Eastern time across the Sports Fix radio network. Many of you joining us on TuneIn and TuneIn's radio app right there worldwide. A great place to enjoy the show on Spreaker and Mixler. Shout out to you guys there listening to us live, and as well everybody hitting us up live on the sportsfix.net, the home base for us, our mothership, if you will, the sportsfix.net. Bookmark it if you haven't. Welcome in as well all of you guys listening on digital audio delay 24 hours a day. Thousands of people around the world, different places, countries, and zip codes and time zones enjoying the show on iHeartRadio and iTunes and Stitcher Radio and SoundCloud and CarPlay, all of the different places, all the different formats, all the different ways that you enjoy the show and get your fix. I say it every day. Thank you guys so much for doing it and being a part of it. Phones open as always, 216-539-7535, 216-539-7535. Facebook and Twitter, facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. Email us, thesportsfix@aol.com. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us at thesportsfixcle. Email us, thesportsfix@aol.com. And as I said, oh, man, yesterday, March Madness began, and it came in with a thunder yesterday. I mean, think about some of the numbers. It was clearly one of the most historic individual days in NCAA history. You had 5 games decided by 1 point, most of any single day in the tournament's history. That alone kind of puts it on its own little place in history amongst a single day of the NCAA tournament. But 11 games yesterday. 11. Remember, they only played 16. 11 games decided by fewer than 10 points. Ties the all-time single-day NCAA record. The only time it's only been 3 other times in history that has happened, and it's been since 2010 that there's been a day as exciting as yesterday's day. 9 games were decided by 5 or fewer points. So over half of yesterday's games were decided by 5 or less. Once again, ties the single-day tournament high. This one back in March of 2001, so almost 14 years there since that one. And if you want to go back to the first 4, and you want to go back a day before the tournament started, there's already been 6 games decided by 1 point in this tournament. 5 yesterday, plus Dayton's 1-point win over Boise State Wednesday. The entire tournament, the record for most games decided by 1 point is 7 in the whole tournament, and there's been 6 in the first 2 days of this thing. Well, the first day and the first 4. I mean, that's nuts, because you know what's going to happen today. There's a whole nother day like today yet to go. I'm telling you now, I've got North Dakota State on my bracket. I had it from the get-go as one of the teams that I think today pulls off a similar type upset, and I'm sticking with it, man. I'm going to go ahead and stick with that one. I think it's one of the more realistic ones, too. Looking across some of the other games coming up, I'm looking to see who else I've got coming through. I do have Davidson, but 10-7 to me is not a big upset there, in my opinion. Let's see. I'm trying to see if I've got anything else. I've got Dayton coming out today in 11-6. My other big upset today, I've got Albany knocking off Oklahoma in the first round over there, 14-3. Let's see if I'm right about that one there. Let's see if there's anything else crazy I've got. Valpo and Maryland, that's the other one, 13-4. I've got Valpo shocking the Terps and knocking off Maryland in the first round of the tournament. So those are my crazy picks today. Everything else is pretty much chalk, pretty standard picks across the board, but I've got a couple of crazy ones. Let's see. I'll tell you, talk about crazy. I was the biggest Wofford Terrier fan that there is last night. They almost pulled off my 12-5 upset with Arkansas. Fell short at the end, but Wofford, they went out there and gave it a run, man. I was sitting there watching. That's the thing. Only in March Madness do you find yourself sitting at the TV at midnight rooting for Wofford and saying, man, let's go Terriers, go. What a terrifying nickname, by the way, the Terriers. But hey, man, they were snipping at the heels of the Razorbacks all game. Yes, they had it, and it just it came apart for them at the end. They went on a dry stretch there. I think it was 7 straight trips where they missed shots, and that was pretty much the thing that kept them there. Man, how about Harvard, by the way? And I'm going to get to the big upsets. Looking back at yesterday, Harvard kept it close, just narrowly missed. That one had me breathing. I've got North Carolina all the way through to the Final Four. So that one, talk about a bracket buster. For me, the only one that hurt me at all yesterday was Iowa State, and that's because I ended up putting them through to the Sweet 16, and I told you, I'm not saying this, hey, I get as many wrong as anybody else, but I did. That was one of my 14 threes. As you hear, I like the 14s and the 13s. Today I've got 3 or 4 of them going, but I had to upset, and then right before the tournament yesterday, I made some switches, and that was one I said, you can't pick all the 14 seeds, Jerry. So you got to let a couple of them win. So anyways, it is what it is. But UAB, big upset there. I'm not the only one. I know a lot of people said they had Iowa State going through even further than I did. Some people had it going through to the Elite Eight, to the Final Four. Instead, one and done. UAB advances. Now they've got UCLA with that goaltending call. Man, how about that at the end of that? 11-6 upset there. UCLA knocks off SMU, but 14-11. I believe it is the highest combined 2 seeds to ever meet in the second round of the NCAA tournament when you've got the game tomorrow, UAB and UCLA, a 14-11 matchup. I've got another one, though. If my bracket holds true today, there's going to be a 15-10 on Sunday because I've got Davidson and North Dakota State coming out of there. But looking around some of the other games, most of the expected victories, but man, the other big upset on the flip side, talking about 14-3 Baylor. Wow, Baylor knocked off, and how many people, just those two right there, by the way, how many people's brackets were toast when you look at Iowa State and Baylor getting knocked off right there? Baylor didn't hurt me a ton because I only had them advancing into the second round of the tournament anyway. Georgia State knocking them off doesn't really kill my bracket too much because I had Xavier actually beating Baylor in the second round of the tournament. I've still got Xavier going through here if I was to re-bracket it now. But those two there, big ones on the same day, a couple of them. And, man, there was, like I said, several more. Yesterday was an incredibly exciting day of hoops across the. How about Cincinnati? And I'm getting to the Buckeyes, but saving the best for last. How about Cincinnati down 7 with 40 seconds left in that game or whatever, and then able to come back and knock off Purdue and get themselves set up for the next team looking to stop Kentucky's run at history. You got the 1-8 matchup there, Kentucky and Cincinnati. A lot of people today, by the way, talking about Buffalo. I talked myself out of that. I had Buffalo. When I made my switches yesterday, Buffalo was one. I had them knocking off West Virginia. I switched that as well. You know, sometimes you overthink it. But anyways, looking around across to Butler, Notre Dame, many expected, and that should be a good second-round matchup there. North Carolina State, they were trailing by a big margin too. LSU in the first half was running NC State out of the building. The Wolfpack were getting dunked all over. There was rebound dunks, and I mean the length, and they were getting beat up inside by LSU. Come back around to the end of that thing, and North Carolina State able to knock them off by a point there and set themselves up for Villanova. And the Buckeyes, of course. And, we'll talk a little bit here. I'll take a break. Eddie Jansen's going to join me in just a couple minutes, and we'll keep talking some March Madness and look ahead to some of these ones here today. But the Ohio State Buckeyes, I mean, a lot of people written them off at one and done. I had to talk myself into it, but I said, you know what, something in my gut. And to be honest with you, it really came down to D'Angelo Russell. I just said, you know what? The best individual player on the court is D'Angelo Russell, and I think he's going to really have a game. I didn't know if it would be enough to push really, it was VCU didn't play the type of defense I think that I expected them to play, a little bit lesser of the defense. But either way, D'Angelo Russell was the best player on the floor, scored 28 points. Buckeyes were trailing big, and you know what? That's another thing. We mentioned yesterday, Thad Matta and how the experience at the top amongst the coach and how he calms his players down, man, because you settle everybody down after getting shell-shocked early, and as I get tongue-twisted over that, and you're able to weather the storm, get it through, get it down to overtime. You get big, how about Bates' job, by the way? A couple of big three-pointers there, one in regulation, one in overtime. And the Buckeyes come through. D'Angelo Russell's 28 points, third most by a Big Ten freshman in NCAA history as well. So a big individual performance there. The the only higher totals, 30 points, and a couple of names you may recognize, former Big Ten freshmen that had higher points in the tournament, Chris Webber, Isaiah Thomas, each had 30 points apiece. Also down low, and really, here's another one, because we've talked about the weaknesses. Everybody's said what they've had to say all season long about the play of Amir Williams, but the Buckeyes outscored VCU 40-22 down in the paint. As a matter of fact, I was looking at the notes, the ESPN stats and info that came out after the game, going back 5 tournaments for the Buckeyes. Second best performance in the paint for them yet, and well above their season average. That played a big part into it as well. Buckeyes now advance, move on. That's all you have to do in the tournament is win. It doesn't matter if you win by 1 or 100. Buckeyes now set themselves up. I'll tell you, tough challenge. Arizona, I believe, the best defensive team, or right up there in the country. That's going to be an incredible defense that OSU is getting ready to run into. That plays a part into what the best individual player can do. It's going to take a team effort all the way across the board for the Buckeyes to have a chance in this one. They have a chance. I do have the season ending for them against Arizona here. I just think that it's going to be just a little too much for them. I mean, look this tournament run is, I think, going to play out like the Big Ten tournament. They'll win a game or two, and then they're going to run into a team that's just bigger, stronger, and beats them down. And I think that may be what happens here in the next round. But hey, you know what? They don't play the games for nothing. They don't go by what's on paper. If they did, the chalk bracket would be 100% today. And so that's why you go out there and play them. Buckeyes have every bit of a chance to do it. Like I said, it's going to take a lot of what you saw today. Yeah, you had the big number, 28 from D'Angelo Russell, but you got contributions everywhere. You got a little bit of rebounding from everybody. You got a total team effort defensively, too. 7 blocks for the Buckeyes. That's a good total there. That also starts to talk about when you talk about the advantage in the paint on both sides of the ball. And the Buckeyes took care of business. They knock off the VCU Rams in the first round. VCU's tournament ends 26-10. Buckeyes moving on to face Arizona. Let's take a break. I'm going to pick up right there, talk about yesterday's games, today's games, which are already underway as we get rolling here. Looking at the bracket challenge, for those of you that entered, we've got our contest here. There's about 50 of you guys in here. Yesterday, out of the 16 possible, we have one player, Rajat. I don't have a last name here. We have one person who ended up with 14 out of 16. The only 2 that he missed was the 2 big upsets that we talked about. We've got one player who finished with 13 of 16, and then there's a huge grouping at 11 and 12. I'm in there as well. I ended up getting 11 out of 16 first round games. I went 11 and 5. There's a grouping there of about 20 people that got 11 and 12 right. So you don't get a lot of separation until you get through into the second weekend here. But wow, good first bracket there to get 14 of the 16, and the only 2 being the 2 that nobody saw coming. Bruce in the chat room said he missed 12 of 16. That's not a good one. Who was our worst? You know what, though? Our worst is right there. Yeah, our worst in our bracket, number 50 in the Sports Fix Tournament Challenges. Joel Batts. Joel Batts here picked Arizona to win the whole thing. He only got 5 of 16 right in yesterday. He went 5 and 11 yesterday. A very poor performance for that bracket there, but it's a lot of fun. That's all it is. Remember, Cleveland Sports Prize Pack going to the winner, and our group, by the way, as a total, not representing very strong. We only rank in the top 21,000th percentile right now with the average, where they take all of our players and average them out. Yeah, we got a little bit of work to do to catch up with the rest, but that's okay. My bracket will help lift you guys. Don't worry. I'm going 16 for 16 today. I've got those upsets coming. I got the right ones today. Let's talk about that. Did Eddy Jansen get his bracket right? How about yours? Is it busted or not? And we'll talk about that. And Cavaliers, another potential playoff preview right here. You've got the Pacers. It's not on the road. It's not the second night of a back-to-back. It's not the second night after a much more heralded first game. The circumstances are a little different. Let's see what happens tonight. Cavaliers getting ready to go well, no, actually like 5-on-5, but do the thing with the Pacers tonight at the Q. Gonna be a lot of basketball to watch today, baby. Let's talk about that when we come back here on the Sports Fix. Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland joins us. We're talking bracket busting and March Madness and the Cavaliers and the Pacers. LeBron James misses practice this morning with the flu. Very high likelihood LeBron does not play in tonight's game. We'll pick up on all of that and more with Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland coming up next to talk some hoops here on the Sports Fix.
Just a city boy, born and raised in South Detroit. He took the midnight train going anywhere.
Get your fix.
'Cause it's Friday, you ain't got no job, and you ain't got to do.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Hey guys, before we go to the break, I want to talk to you a little bit again about our good friends at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, the UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championships, some of the hottest fights in the world today. Each and every one of their huge events, Harry Buffalo is one of the few places in Northeast Ohio you can go there and watch each and every UFC fight at the Harry Buffalo. And let me tell you, I've been there. The people are out the door. They are to the rafters. It is one of the craziest environments for some UFC fights. Wing Mondays, they've got great deals on wings and drinks, and every day of the week there's a different special, a different deal. And don't forget the Bison Burger, the unbelievable. It is the combination of a fantastic burger and eating healthy combined into one unbelievable sandwich. You have got to get a Bison Burger while you're there. So whatever you're looking for, whatever day of the week, Monday through Friday, Saturday, Sundays, there's something for you at the Harry Buffalo North Olmsted, just outside Great Northern Mall. Check them out today. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
The Sports Fix is on iHeartRadio. Download the free iHeart app today. Subscribe to the show and get your fix. Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs. There's literally only one place to go. FantasyJocks.com.
What's your fantasy? Here we go, bring it on in. It's time now. It's all city. We got to do it for them, dog. We got to do it for Cleveland. They're waiting on us. Define what we're about. Let's get it going.
Every single night, every single practice, every single game, we got to give it all we got because they're going to ride with us. Everything that we do on this floor will because of this city. We owe them. We're going to grind for this city. They're going to support us, man, but we got to give it all back to them. We get it done. The toughness that we have on the court is going to come from this city. Everybody, the whole city of Cleveland. That's what it's all about. It's time to bring them something special. Let's go. Bring it on in, everybody. Let's go. Hard work on 3. Together on 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. 4, 5, 6. It's all us. Cleveland on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Hey everybody, this is Jerry the King Lawler from WWE, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix, live across the Sports Fix Radio Network. J-Rocc back with you here. Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland going to join me here in a moment. We're going to talk all kinds of hoops here. We're talking March Madness and bracket busting, and the madness has begun today, Friday edition. For those of you listening live, Kansas, who, by the way, is the team that I picked knock the block off, to knock off the Kentucky dream. I think Kansas is the team that's going to end the perfect run there for Kentucky. I'm going to see what Eddy thinks about that. We'll talk some Cavs hoops as they're going to turn down tonight with the Pacers. LeBron probably not going to be a part of the festivities here. Looks like he's going to be out with the flu. We're going to talk about all of that, guys, next with Eddy. You can keep the conversation going on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook.com/thesportsfix. Tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE, and of course you can email us, thesportsfix@AOL.com. Going to the phones, Eddy Jansen, my man. How are you doing on this hoops overdose weekend, man?
I'm doing well, Jerry, and I gotta say, the madness has begun, and it's already a great sight to see. A very tough first round for some of the 3 seeds in the NCAA bracket, but more to come with the 1 seeds playing tonight.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm pretty sure you're right there with me. You do hoops, you do broadcasting, high school, college, all of that. I'm a hoops junkie, and this is my absolute favorite weekend of the year because you've got just a little bit of the other sports mixed in with a ton of basketball games. I mean, just this is it for me. And then you got late night Indians baseball mixing in with some Cavs hoops here as well. Man, can't get any better than the initial weekend of March Madness.
Oh, no question about it. My 2 favorite times a year really would be the month of March and then the month of October, because you kind of flip things around. In October, you go with baseball playoffs, and then the beginning of the basketball season and the NBAA and the NCAA. But really, 2 of those months interchangeable. I love them both, but March in particular because things outside start to warm up a little bit as well.
Yeah, and I've got yesterday, I said it at the start of the show, so far, not like it's a lot of competition, it's only the middle of March, but the most, to me, best 24-hour day of sports, man, yesterday is it so far in this year. Just so much incredible stuff. We talked about it at the beginning of the show, how close all of these games were, man. If you count Wednesday's play-in game as part of the tournament, which I think technically you should, they're 1 game short of the number of 1-point games in an entire tournament, and they did it in the first day +1.
Yeah, absolutely unbelievable first round. I mean, who would have seen Baylor falling to Georgia State by a point, and then in the south part of the bracket, you've got UAB by a point over Iowa State, and then, like I just mentioned before, tough first round for the 3 seed as Notre Dame almost fell to Northeastern. Yeah,
how about that?
Way too many 1-point marginal wins as compared to what we are used to, but that's what you look forward to. That's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, and today's coming. I mentioned I don't know about you, but in my bracket that I filled out for the show here today, I've got NDSU knocking off Gonzaga. North Dakota State, man. I went with them before. I'm sticking with it. I think that's going to be a 15-2 upset today. I went out on a little bit of a limb there with that one. But I've got another one, too. I've got a 14-3 coming today because I think Albany knocks off Oklahoma today. That game is 7:30 this evening here. But I've got a couple of them coming here, man. I think those are the 2 craziest ones. I'm looking at the rest of my picks. I think those are the only 2 really out there, and Davidson, but again, I don't think 10-7 is a big upset, but those are my crazy ones today. And then I've got Dayton, the 11th seed, because I said it yesterday or Wednesday, whichever team won that play-in game, I thought was going to go all the way to the Sweet 16. So I think Dayton's going to do it. But anyways, I do have a couple more double-digit seeds. Do you have any that you think is most likely to do the deed today?
No, not in particular. And Jerry, I want to go back to your comment about Kansas and Kentucky. You know, I'm real tempted to lean with you on that because I do like Kansas. I like the way that they spread the ball and play defense. But boy, hard not to see Kentucky go into the Final Four this year, Jerry. So a little bit of a crazy pick, but everybody's got to have them, and that's the nature of the bracket.
I mean, I was looking at all the teams that Kentucky could come across here, and that was the one. I mean, Kansas played one of the toughest schedules of any team in basketball this season, man. And I just, for the reasons you listed, something in my gut said, man, if that's the match, and that's what I have as here in Cleveland. I've got the my Cleveland region, or I believe, what is it? Is that the regional? It's called that part there. But my Cleveland semifinal and final, I've got Kentucky, West Virginia, I've got Notre Dame, Kansas, and I've got Kentucky and Kansas as the final there to see who goes on to the Final Four. So I've got Kansas being the team that ends it. Do you think Kentucky has the juice to make it all the way through this thing? There's been so much talk, so much speculation. I was mentioning yesterday, Larry Brown, I saw the headline that he said they could make the NBA playoffs. I always laugh at those only because it's really not as easy to say that as many people think. Although with the one and done phenomenon that we have in the way college has gone now, I do think Kentucky is closer than most of those when you make those comparisons to say they could play an NBA team, because they've got 4 or 5 guys that could probably drop right into the NBA, but it would take them a few years to catch up to the true NBA level, even if they can swim early on. But I still think if you were to take a team even as bad as, Philly or one of those teams, the bench is where even the best college team will struggle, because those, whatever, even if you want to call them scrubs in the NBA, they're still at that level of college players. Are they or not? What do you think about that with Kentucky?
Yeah, I'm with you 100%, Jerry. I don't think there is any way, shape, or form or scenario where you could put even the most elite players at the college level, stack them up with any NBA team, and say that the college players would be able to come away with a win. There's no way. There's just no way. There's more games in professional sports. It is a totally year-round thing. Not that college basketball isn't, but NBA even more so, because you've got more 4 games in 5 days, 6 games in 8 days. So these NBA athletes stack up exponentially well to even the greatest of college athletes. But I will say this. Even the elitist of the elite players on, say, a Kentucky or whoever, they can come into the league, they can get drafted high and have an immediate impact in the NBA. Now, does that mean they're going to be a superstar at the NBA level immediately? No. Guys like Anthony Davis take a couple years to blossom and just to get a feel for the league, and I don't think that's really a fair assessment for anybody to make, that a college team can just walk into an NBA gym, let alone a playoff NBA gym, and be comparable to both sides. I just don't see it.
Right, because think about it. Like you said, it takes time, and I said that. These guys, just because you can drop them on the floor, just because you go, okay, this guy, it doesn't matter if you're talking about Cauley Stein, a Harrison. You go through the whole roster. You say, okay, we could drop this guy into the NBA. Like I said, maybe he could swim, but it's going to be a couple of years, because those veteran tricks, all of those things, they know how to box out, position. They know all the little – there's no way that you could drop them against even the worst NBA team. They could hang. They could have a few good shining moments, but at the end of the day, I'm with you. There's no way. There's no way. There's just no way, and those make me laugh when I hear those. But that Kentucky team is deep. They're 10 deep. They're strong. They don't have to play NBA teams. They're in the NCAA tournament, and it is going to be a tough out to get them. I know I went out on a limb there, knocking them off. Maybe I just want to see them get knocked off in Cleveland, because that it makes it a little more memorable here, the tournament run here. But that's a good team. Something about Kansas in my gut says they're going to be the team to do it. So that's kind of why I jumped out there. I also went out on a limb with Michigan State too. I had Michigan State. I know they're a 7 seed. It's not like the craziest thing, but I got Michigan State going all the way through to the Final Four.
Wow.
Oh, no, I've got them to the Elite Eight. I'm sorry. I've got them losing to Villanova. I've got Villanova going, but I took them all the way through to the Elite Eight, because, again, that's a team that's been there, done that in the tournament. And I think when you've got a coach and you've got that kind of experience, those things, that helped Ohio State yesterday. They didn't have a lot of experience in the players being in the tournament, but they got a coaching staff that's been there, done that before. And I think that helps out teams like Michigan State.
Well, and Ohio State, J-Rocc also has a young man by the name of D'Angelo Russell.
Best player on the floor.
I think that is probably going to help them out. If anything, I mean, they do have the coaching staff, but when you've got a true freshman that can go out and score the third most points in the first round of an NCAA tournament in his first year with 28 points, they've got a bona fide star going forward.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why I flip-flopped, because earlier in the week I was leaning VCU, and then yesterday I said, you know what? I said they've got the best individual player on the floor, and I think that's going to get them past here. I still think they're gonna end their run against Arizona, but let me ask you something, because this kind of combines into college and the pros. I was talking to somebody last night about this. I thought if Ohio State was one and done, that so would D'Angelo Russell, no doubt about it, because then you don't even get that real emotional investment in the tournament. I was talking to somebody last night. I said, okay, when you win a crazy overtime comeback first-round game as an underdog in a lot of people's eyes, and then if they go out here and even if they lose, but it's a hell of a game against Arizona, or they win, I mean, because they could knock off Arizona. Either way, does that change the thought process? Because does D'Angelo Russell then get a little taste of March Madness and then go, you know what, maybe I will come back and take one more run at this tournament before I go into the NBA? I thought it was such a foregone opinion of everybody that he was one and done, and I said, well, maybe the excitement, just like we all get caught up, everybody gets caught up in March Madness, maybe going on a little run might be the thing that makes him go, I got a lot of time to make a lot of money. I'm going to come back one more year and take another shot at the tournament. What do you think is the likelihood of that?
Well, I got to say it's hard to tell. I think that every athlete and their approach to, the college ranks as opposed to going off to the pros and making their money, getting their payday, and ultimately getting to the spot where they are bound to be for the rest of their careers. I'm not really sure if there's a blueprint way to really predict what is going on in the mind of D'Angelo Russell. Obviously, no pun intended, there is a lot of basketball left to play that is going to determine whether he wants to move forward to the NBA, to the pro ranks, or if he wants to come back for another season. So a lot is yet to be determined with him. But one thing that we know for sure, he's going to be a really great player wherever he goes, because you saw what he did in the first round, and I think he's got a chance to repeat some of that success against a bit of a bigger Arizona Wildcats team.
And I'm just going to throw this out here because my man Dan Wismar loves to, we always talk about the phrase, you just can't, and people use that all the time. And like Cardell Jones, I just think back just a month and a half ago, you just can't pass up all the money and the potential, and his stock will never be higher than it is right now. And he said, you know what? I'm going back to college, man. I'm in no rush to go to the NFL. I'm just saying, for all the people, I see John in the chat room, and trust me, I thought for sure, I'm like, you know what, he's not going to be able to pass that up, but you just never know. And I just think all I'm saying is that one and done in the tournament is different. You go on a run, maybe that, kids are kids. And plus, hey, you only get one shot to do the college thing. I know the money is something, but you can always get insurance. That's what a lot of these guys do when they decide to come back. They get the $5 million, $10 million insurance policy. That way, if they do get hurt, they protect themselves financially. But I'm just saying, I think a run in the tournament behooves people that want to see him come back more than had they truly been one and done, because then you can kind of go, okay, cool, let's move on to the next thing. But I think you get a little, I don't know, some people, it depends on your competitiveness, it depends on your maturity, it depends on how much fun you're having in college, but it'll be interesting to see, especially if Ohio State advances to the Sweet 16. They're one win away from doing it there. How are your brackets looking, by the way?
As usual, not very good.
Hey,
not
man,
very good. Usually
crapshoot.
What ends up happening every year, J-Rocc, is I revisit my bracket at the end of the first round, and I say, boy, this bracket is already looking as ugly as some of my ex-girlfriends.
I'll tell you.
It's that bad. It's that bad. I didn't have any of the 3 seeds losing in the first round. It's already looking bad. I mean, it's not going to look that terrible in retrospect, because you're never as good as you think you are. You're never as bad as you think you are. But yeah, I mean, it's not looking good as far to say the least.
Even with the upsets, on the first day I went 11-5. Not great, obviously, but I'll tell you what, our bracket challenge, I mentioned it before, we had a guy go 14 of 16. The only two that he missed were the two 14-3 upsets. Other than that, he went 14 for 14 on the other games, which isn't bad at all, you know, so... some of these guys can nail it. I do okay, but some years my brackets are just burned to the ground. This year, well, we'll see. I'm holding up so far, but it really is a crap. By the way, I told you guys yesterday that I was doing two brackets. I do a comparison bracket. I just do the chalk bracket. All the top seeds winning all the games, you know, and that bracket's looking much better. No, actually, for those of you that wonder, just looking at that, my bracket that I filled out, I went 11-5. The bracket with all the top seeds went 12-4. So it wasn't any different really when you look at it there, because more of the top seeds won. It was just those couple big ones that people noticed. But Chalk didn't do much better than me doing all that research. So sometimes you're just as good as flipping a coin, man. Sometimes you just go out there and do it. But we'll see. It'd be a lot of fun today. Those games getting started, as I said, Kansas, I think they were up big early, by the way, as I look to update you guys on the scores here. Kansas early on, midway through the first half, they're up 10 and looking to roll New Mexico State. They better be, because I got them knocking off the Wildcats. All right, Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland. We're talking some hoops here on the Sports Fix, and let's switch over to the professional ranks. The Cavaliers the other night got back home, another bounce back. I mentioned it the other day. I do not mind that they lose every third or fourth game here all the way into the playoffs. I want that, because the things that I like about watching this team, the guys that listen every day know I've said this about 6-7 times this week, is that you keep your focus. You're always stubbing your toe, so you're keeping your focus. You're not getting too ahead of yourself or too complacent. But I love watching the game after the Cavs lose for the last 2.5 months. Every time they lose, if they got out-rebounded or if they didn't pass the ball or whatever it was that they did when they lose, the next game, you can guarantee that that's the area that they focus on, which is a team that's constantly getting improvement and working on themselves. If they got out-rebounded in a loss, the next night they come out and attack the boards and they out-rebound the other team by a dozen. And those are the things that show you that they lose a game and it doesn't just go, oh, okay, it's just another game. They realize why they lost, and their job the next game, it's not just to win, it's to focus exactly on whatever cost you the previous game. I love seeing that. That's the growth that you're watching going into the playoffs.
Oh, absolutely, J-Rocc. And I got to say, I was shaking in my shoes at the beginning, because it kind of seemed early on, like at one point, that the Cavs might have actually dropped this game, because the first question that was asked to David Blatt in the pregame was, does he think his team has taken a step back defensively in the last couple of weeks? And his answer was yes, although he wasn't too entirely sure where to give that credit, if it was fatigue or if it was being on the road for so many games. And then at the 4-minute mark in the first quarter, Brooklyn went up by 13 points. It was 22-9 at that point. But whatever the Cavaliers did to flip on the offensive switch and keep it there was really impressive to watch. I mean, that shot after shot after shot just kept falling. Big night for J.R. Smith from the three-point line, and eventually LeBron turned it on a little bit. They had 8 different players score in double figures last night. So, and really a testament to what you've just said. At coming home after a loss, they are able to flip a switch, turn it on, and really get everybody involved in the offense. It was not just one player last night. I mean, they did have 2 guys, Mozgov as well as J.R. Smith, score 17 points apiece. But when you have LeBron and Kyrie and Kevin Love not in your top 3 in scoring, you're doing something right when you score over 100 points against a pretty decent Brooklyn team.
Absolutely, and I know this is Brooklyn. I know they're sub 500 with what I'm going to say here next, but you talked about that beginning of the game. They fall down. Here's another sign of growth to me with the Cavaliers team is that earlier in the season, and I know it's a tale of two seasons. I know that we can't even do that, but earlier in the season, when you talk about, they started sluggish and they need to come out with, usually those are the things you say after the loss because they didn't reverse the course. If they came out sluggish like that and fell behind early, then they lose the game, and Coach Blatt's press conference afterwards would be like, we didn't come out with energy. We need to do this, do that, do this. Now you're seeing the ability, and again, it's Brooklyn. It's not against the Spurs, but the ability to turn the court, not just wait till after the game and watch the film and improve, but they got in the huddle, they got it together, and they went on from there. And that's something too, man. We've seen a couple of times now in the last 2 months, this team now show that ability of going down double digits. Now, you don't want to lean on this, of course, because you'll lose more than you win, but being able to turn a double-digit deficit into a double-digit lead, those incredible swings of the game like that. I mean, you look at how they just dominated the second and third quarters of that game, and it's like you're watching two different games. But earlier in the season, they would talk about those after a loss and fix it after a loss going forward, whereas now they can make those in-game adjustments. They can realize, hey, man, we're playing like we're asleep. Let's wake up. Let's play. David Blatt called that timeout the other day and said, stop turning the ball over, and you'll win the game. That's your problem. And they went out there and they buckled down. Again, showing the in-game adjustments. I'm with it, man. I like that because too many times earlier it'd be like, we got to figure out why we didn't come out with energy. Well, that's fine, but fixing it during the game too is something you have to be able to do during the playoffs, and they're getting better and better at that, as well as bouncing back from losses.
And J-Rocc, the other thing too is, and I don't think that David Blatt really gets enough credit for doing this. When you look at some of the elite teams in the NBA, particularly the scoring ones, your Golden States, your Atlantas of the world, most of those teams typically tend to be first and third quarter oriented teams. That's when they go on their big runs because they are energy teams. They are a high volume shooting type of team. They like to run the floor. And really, first and third quarters, those really are not the quarters that are about making the adjustments. It's about coming out with energy. And not to say that the Cavaliers have not come out with energy, but they seem to be more of a second and third quarter team, just like we saw the other night with the Nets going 36-21 in the second quarter and then 35-26 in the third quarter. And I really think that a lot of credit is given to David Blatt, putting guys in the right positions, making the right substitutes in the bench at the clear and precise time to get those guys acclimated into the game. And I think that that's really what makes the Cavaliers unique amongst the best teams in the league, is that most of the scoring teams go on a rampage in the first and third quarter. Then you don't really hear much about them in clutch time right before the half and right before the end of the game. But the Cavaliers really play their best basketball in the meat and potatoes of the game, as opposed to the slices of bread that are at the edges. So, yeah, I mean, you got to give a lot of credit to David Blatt about that, and that's going to work for the Cavaliers' favor come playoff time.
I agree with you. You pointed out those spreads is what I was talking about, the double digits in both of those quarters there. That just completely turned the game and took it over. I'll tell you what. You know what? Looking, by the way, hoops. You got all the NCAA stuff. Cavaliers and Pacers is a potential playoff preview. Tonight's a hell of a basketball night all around the world. You've got some great NBA games. I mean, Toronto and Chicago, Atlanta and OKC, Memphis and Dallas. There are some good basketball games on the professional level as well. I mean, New Orleans and Golden State, a late night game, and Washington and the Clippers. I mean, those are some good ones, but Atlanta, I see John in the chat room talking about the Hawks, and that's the one thing I cannot wait to see in the playoffs, how the Cavaliers adjust in the half court to the Hawks and how they but I think the Cavaliers match up all right, better than people think in the playoffs. I truly think that there's other teams like the Pacers that the Cavs actually match up with worse, even if they may have a much harder time beating the Hawks. I mean, matchups are a big thing. I'm really interested in tonight's game along those lines because the last couple with the Pacers and the Cavs, I've mentioned they have been on the back end of where the more prominent game was the day before. There was like the big Spurs game, or there was another one where there was another big game right before the Pacers. So they were kind of the afterthought. Plus, they were on the road as well. This one's going to be at the Q with well-rested before the game, focus on the Pacers. But that is a very potential first-round matchup. And they match up better with the Cavs than most other teams, in my opinion.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there, J-Rocc. And actually, I think that the Cavaliers in the second half of the season probably match up a little bit better with Indiana than as opposed to early on in the season. And we know watching LeBron in the playoffs over the years that the one team in particular that has given him a run for his team's money is the Indiana Pacers, primarily because of the two guys down low with West and with Hibbert as well. Their size and ability to clog the paint is not going to allow any easy buckets for LeBron James's Heat or the Cavaliers from this year. But with the added perimeter shooting that they've got, the Cavaliers much better equipped to take on a Pacers team that is a nitty-gritty, get out and defend type of a team that likes to run in transition. I think that they will give the Cavs a run for their money this time tonight, but it's a totally different story, J-Rocc. They are here at home, taking on the Pacers on their home floor with the added shooting of J.R. Smith and Shumpert, as well as Mozgov, who can really step out to about 15 feet and knock a shot down as well.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, Indiana tied right now with Boston for that final playoff spot. You and I kind of looked ahead a few weeks ago, and that there's already been some flip-flopping around there. Charlotte had the bottom spot locked up. They're a half game back. There is, once again, a dogfight here between 7, 8, 9, and 10. Brooklyn, they've gone 4-6, including that loss to the Cavs in their last 10, so they've kind of put themselves, they're still in it, but they're 3.5 games back of the playoff spot. But just within 1.5 games, or within a half game, you've got 3 teams. Within 1.5, you've got 4. Miami, Boston, Indiana, Charlotte. The interesting thing is that not just for who's going to get in, but who's going to end up number 7, because as we know, that is going to be whoever most likely ends up with the Cavs, presuming that they hold on to the 2-point lead that they've got, 2-game lead in the second place there in the seedings. But man, this is going to be a dogfight there in the East. I know it's hard to get excited about a bunch of 29 and 37, 30 and 37 teams fighting it out, but it is what it is. I mean, you can't change that. And those teams are all teams. When you and I looked ahead at the Cavs schedule, all of those teams on it down the stretch, and that's why I said those are great little mini challenge. You would think, okay, Cavs are playing Charlotte, Cavs are playing Brooklyn, not a big test game, but man, those teams have to win to stay alive. The Cavaliers they don't, obviously they want to win, but the Cavaliers don't have to win like those other teams do, so that keeps you sharp, because as much as you go, Brooklyn's 10 games under 500, Brooklyn's trying to get in the playoffs, so they're trying to beat you, and that's why you come out and trail by 13 points early. So I like the fact that our schedule is riddled with these guys who are competing for playoff spots down the stretch.
I do as well. I think you really put it in a good perspective here, J-Rocc, and really from a Cavalier.
Eddie, you completely cut out right in mid-sentence. The Cavaliers.
We know one thing for sure, that the Cavaliers are not going to catch Atlanta, so they're most likely going to be looking at the 7th seed, or maybe if Toronto or Chicago happens to catch the Cavs, they'd be at best looking at the 6th seed. But when you've got teams like your Miamis and your Charlottes that are battling for their playoff lives, odds are you're probably going to run into one of those teams that's playing its best stretch of basketball throughout the course of the year, because whoever wins those seeds is just a matter of who gets hot at the right time. That really is a lot of times what playoffs in sports are about. I mean, baseball is the best example. With the Giants and Royals last season, neither one of them were really playing all that great throughout the meat and potatoes of the season, but come September they play great and they make it all the way. So, and really from a different perspective, it also puts things under the microscope in terms of how much energy are the Cavaliers going to have to expend in the first round, the matchups, who are they going to have to play, who are they going to have to sit, and looking forward to the second round, which I think it's a foregone conclusion that the Cavaliers will be in the Eastern Conference semifinals regardless of who they play. But it's very relevant who they get in this first round, and it would be clearly interesting on the LeBron's psyche perspective if they end up getting Miami in the first round, because he has struggled a little bit in Miami trying to win games in his former gym.
I'm telling you, I had a premonition when LeBron signed here. I said it on the air that the Cavs and the Heat end up being a first-round matchup in the playoffs, and that may happen. But you know what? You talk about teams hot at the right time and how these guys are fighting. Milwaukee is playing their way right out of the playoffs. They were right there in the 4-5 discussion a week and a half, 2 weeks ago or whatnot. They've lost 8 of their last 10 games. They're down to 500. They're still sitting pretty in the number 6 spot, but every team around them, Washington, 7-3 in their last 10. Boston, Indiana, 7-3 in their last 10. And Miami and Charlotte, 6-4. So those teams are at least, trying to make some hay here. And then Milwaukee, 2-8 in their last 10, continuing to fall through. I don't know if there's enough time for them to fall all the way out, but I could see a scenario where Miami, Boston, and Indiana or Charlotte end up 6, 7, and 8, and Milwaukee ends up on the outside looking in.
I mean, it possibly could happen. I mean, I really think that the trade that they made right before the deadline to acquire Michael Kidd-Gilchrist really disrupted any kind of chemistry that they had, because with Brandon Knight being their point guard early on in the season, he was such a passing in the lane oriented point guard, and that takes time for things to develop. Carter Williams has battled some injuries here and there, and they've had a really hard time working him into the system. And I don't think it's any surprise that Milwaukee has kind of slipped off the table. But yeah, I mean, you have to throw Milwaukee into that boat as well, that the Cavaliers could have in the first round, and that's a team that has really given Irving and company a run for their money too.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see down the stretch how this goes. Most of these teams, not everybody's equal, but most of these teams in the 67, 68 game range there. So the next 2 weeks are going to be really interesting. But as I said, across the board, a lot of great NBA games tonight, and Cavaliers have one of them, as it's the Cavs and the Pacers tonight. By the way, mentioned it, I don't know if you've heard anything more, but I'm doubting LeBron plays tonight. He skipped practice. He's got flu-like symptoms, they say. Most likely looking like LeBron may not play tonight. Are you hearing anything different?
No, I heard what you heard, J-Rocc, and I think that would be the right decision to sit LeBron tonight. If there is any reasonable doubt that you would not get LeBron James at 100% tonight, I say rest him. It's a Friday night. It's against a team that it really likes to push you around, whether it's in the post or up high. Really no reason to play him in particular tonight. Sit him down and really try to focus on getting Kevin Love more time, more scoring opportunities, more shooting opportunities, and try to really get him reaffirmed into the offense before playoff time, just to brush things up a little bit with Love and the Cavaliers offensively.
Eddy Jansen, More Than a Fan Cleveland, always a great time. We talk some Cavaliers, hoops, NBA, March Madness. By the way, one that I didn't mention, and I'm going to be honest, I didn't pick it. I went with Northern Iowa. I actually have Northern Iowa all the way through to the Sweet 16, but I think I made a mistake because my gut is screaming all morning that Larry Nance Jr. in Wyoming is about to pull the upset there. In the matter of fact, that game is up just about 45 minutes from now. But maybe it's the old Cavalier fan in me pulling for the young buck there with the last name of Nance. But I don't know. Something in my gut says Wyoming may pull that. I hope not, because that'll hurt my brackets just a little bit. But Eddy, Jansen, you ready to enjoy some hoops today or what? From the NCAA on down, this great slate of NBA games here this weekend. It's going to be an incredible one for basketball fans all over. Plus, the high school tournaments wrapping down. There's been some great play. Cleveland Central Catholic keeps rolling on. Just a great time to be a basketball fan, brother.
Oh, no question about it. And, you could not turn your TV on in a 24-hour time frame here on Friday afternoon and not have a basketball game on. I mean, it's hard to avoid. Basketball is just everywhere, and then these games being brought to you, for you, really have been great coming down the stretch.
And I know you're a baseball guy too, man, and it's only spring training, I get it, but Late Night Drive Live coming back last night, and you gotta love. I'm always my favorite baseball. Maybe it's because I'm so busy during the day, but seriously, my favorite baseball games during the Indian season is when they're playing on the West Coast, because I get everything done. I've got the work done, I've got the workout done, I've got everything done, and then I get to enjoy the game. I don't have to squeeze it in with the 800 other things to do, so I always love that. And I'm right there, man. With even though it's spring training, I get to mix in just a little tease of some late night baseball in with all this basketball. So that just makes it a little better for me personally.
Oh, no question about it. And I'm not sure if you've ever had an opportunity to go out to spring training, but I went to Florida in 2008, the last year that the Indians were down there in Winter Haven, and boy, oh boy, that was a dream come true. Baseball fields all over the place. You could check your phone and see how your bracket's doing with NCAA basketball. And yeah, I mean, if anybody listening out there ever gets a chance to go to spring training in Arizona, I would strongly, strongly recommend it. It is well worth it, and it will be a great time for you.
Well, my only spring training experience was, you can scratch the cell phones and the smartphones because those things didn't exist. The only time I ever ventured to spring training, and it just happened to be spring training during the same time as our vacation to Florida, was when I was a youngster. And we went and vacationed outside, was it Kissimmee, with Baseball City back in the 80s when all the teams had their spring training down there. And, it was like, a dozen or 18 teams that shared like that same complex and all those fields. And anyways, that was my only little brush with it there. That would have been, like 80. Oh man, what year was it that whatever year it was that Mike Tyson blew out Spinks in like 30 seconds in the fight that was all hyped up? I think it would have been like 88. Anyways, that was when my only little brush with spring training, and I just remember ordering that fight when it happened in the hotel or the thing that we were staying in, and it was all the hype, and then he blew out Spinks in about 30 seconds or whatnot, 90 seconds or something like that. It was one of the biggest, non-satisfying of all the Mike Tyson fights. But that was my only experience, so I'm dying to get down to Arizona, and hopefully next spring I can get down there and do a week of broadcasts from spring training. And I know everybody tells me I got to get down there, brother.
Oh yeah, well, and they're right. I mean, and you gotta love the gorgeous weather, the Arizona sun, and baseball.
I'm done with
gotta love it.
Because it's the first day of spring and we got snow. Well, we don't have snow, but I've seen some people posting pictures because, of course, it would snow on the first day of spring up here in the Ohio area. But I'm with you, man. I got to get down there for sure. Eddy, my man, enjoy this weekend. Have some fun, and I look forward to talking Cavs hoops. Next year will be, within 2 weeks or so of the playoffs, brother.
Oh, no question about it. Have a good weekend, J-Rocc.
You too. Enjoy your hoops, brother. Eddy Jansen from More Than a Fan Cleveland, always with us here once a week talking Cavs and basketball of all sorts here on the Sports Fix. Thank you guys for enjoying that. Thanks to Eddy for being with us, and don't go anywhere. Let's take a break, get you some news, and come back. Hour 2 of the Sports Fix rolls on. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com joins us coming up next. We'll talk about his NCAA bracket. Curious to see if it got blown up. The Browns, hey, you know what? all do, get on them when they deserve it and whatnot. They made a decent free agent signing for sure. I know there's some people that'll say, oh, well, it's just this, it's just that. It's still better than what they've done, and they're in a better situation than they were 24 hours ago. I will give them that. Let's talk about it. Browns signed Dwayne Bowe here to a contract. They lose a free agent at the same time. Mentioned it earlier this week. Rubin heading to the Seahawks. We'll talk about that and more with Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com coming up next. Still going to talk some Tribe baseball. CSU knows who they're playing next in the collegeinsider.com tournament and so much more. But coming up next, Jeff Gorman, Browns101.com. Don't go anywhere. Next, after the news here on The Fix.
Got to make it happen. Come on, Kev. 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 Got to make it happen. Keep on getting on. Got to make it happen. Come on.
The Sports Fix, your choice for intelligent talk.
That was wonderful.
Bravo!
I loved that.
Oh, it was great.
Intelligent talk.
Well, it was pretty good.
Well, it wasn't bad.
Well, there were parts of it that weren't very good, though.
It could have been a lot better.
I didn't really like it.
These guys must be on the wrong station.
It was pretty terrible.
It was bad.
It was awful.
It was terrible.
Get him away!
Hey, boo!
Boo!
The Sports Fix.
Sports Fix listeners, do you tweet? So do we. So tweet with us 24/7 at the Sports Fix CLE.
How to be a great dad in 15 seconds. Bike ride, go fish, walk in the park, phone call, milkshake, play catch, picnic, fly a kite, tell jokes, laugh, talk, read a story, tell a story, bumper car, swing set, bowling, pillow fight, cut loose, stay tight. Whew. Because the smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today. Call 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Have you gotten your copy of Cleveland's Finest yet? Highlighting the best moments, players, and media members in Cleveland sports history? In-depth, personal interviews with some of the top names in Cleveland sports fill the pages of this incredible book. Cleveland's Finest by Vince McKee is this year's must-have book for every Cleveland sports fan. Available now at Amazon.com. Get your copy today.
Business owners and professionals, do you want to take your business, your product, your team, your event to the next level? You want to advertise right here with the Sports Fix. Our listeners are among the most loyal listeners, terrestrial or internet. The Sports Fix universe is not only the radio show, but tens of thousands of fans on Facebook and Twitter. Email me, Jerry Myers, thesportsfix at AOL.com. That's thesportsfix at AOL.com. And let me help you swing for the fences and hit it out of the park right here on the Sports Fix.
Portions of the Sports Fix brought to you by Harry Buffalo. Harry Buffalo, join the herd.
News break.
This is Boomer Esiason with the CBS Sports Minute, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. So how's your bracket this morning? It's got to be better than mine. Yesterday, I confidently predicted right here that number 3 Baylor would upset second-ranked Arizona in the Sweet 16. But hours later, Baylor couldn't buy a bucket in the final 2 minutes and 54 seconds, while number 14 Georgia State went on a 13-0 run. R.J. Hunter delivered a long-range three-point dagger with 2.7 ticks left. RJ's proud papa, Ron, who was back coaching just 3 days after tearing his Achilles, literally fell off his stool as he needed his assistants to help him up. Earlier, I watched another number 14, UAB, topple another 3, Iowa State, whom I had in my Final Four. Well, such is life. After a devastating afternoon, my battered brackets fared only slightly better last night. For days, all we heard was UCLA didn't belong in the field of 68, let alone the number 11 seed. So I felt pretty confident about SMU. Even President Obama picked the Mustangs to get past the Bruins. Sure enough, UCLA advances on a controversial, to say the least, goaltending call on Bryce Alford's three-point attempt that wasn't going to go down. In all, 8 of Thursday's 16 games were decided by a one-possession margin, including a record 5 in one-day single-point contests. Well, I did have number 10, Ohio State over number 7, VCU. And how about Harvard converting 17 North Carolina turnovers into 29 points, only to come up a bucket short? It's all in a day's madness this March. I'm Boomer Esiason.
You're listening to the Sports Fix.
Wow, I feel good. I knew that I wouldn't.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix. Feeling good here on this edition of the show. Feels good to be the end of the week. I feel good because I'm telling you, man, I'm like a junkie, man. I'm overdosed on hoops and I got a sprinkling of everything else. I got some Tribe. I got hoops galore. A little Browns news, just enough to sprinkle, but not enough to make you mad or ruin your weekend or anything, man. I'm with it. I'm feeling good. Hopefully you are too. Welcome back to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc here. I'm feeling good. Are you? Jeff Gorman is. He better be, or else I'm going to kick him off the show. Jeff Gorman, I'm just kidding. Getting ready. He doesn't have to be in a good mood to come on the show. He can be angry if he wants, but it's not the greatest radio, but I mean, we'll make it work. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com going to join us to talk a little. I want to see what his bracket's looking like. We will talk some Browns. Before I jump into that, before I get Jeff on the show, kind of tagging off what we were just talking about, some news coming out here this morning, talking a little NBA basketball, who's doing what to make the playoffs. Oklahoma City got a bad bit of news for their basketball run here, looking to try to able to run down that 8th spot in the Western Conference playoffs. Kevin Durant removed from basketball activities. Looks like he's going to be shut down perhaps for the remainder of the season. He was having trouble with the screws in his foot from the surgery that he had earlier in the season, and it hasn't gotten any better. Basically, they said he's not making the progress they expected, so it looks like he may not be able. When that happened, if you know about that, and Z had a lot of foot problems here, so maybe we're more educated to that stuff in Cleveland than some cities. But that was something when it happened that I said, boy, that's not just the automatic comeback. I'm not saying it's that he won't, but there's always issues when you've got the hardware in there and you start messing with the original hardware and then putting in the metal hardware, and and that's a shame because I've got Kevin Durant up there as, I'll put him with anybody, man, at the top of the game, man, right up there. When I would have the LeBron argument with people and they go, well, who do you got? And when I say, well, he's not the best, he's right up there with the best of the best. Well, who do you got? Of course, that's always one that you go to. And that's my thing. In that grouping, by the way, I've got Durant, I've got Anthony Davis, I've got LeBron James, I've got a couple of other guys. I don't want to get into that argument now because then I'll leave one name out and then another. Point being is I believe it's much easier to say these are the, especially because there's different styles. Some people like big men, some people like different styles. Some people like stretch guys. Some people like shooters. Some people think Steph Curry is just the greatest player in the game, bar none. And it's hard to argue with those people too. So that's why I think it's much better to have a group and say these are the 5 or 6 best players, period. And each one will beat you in a different way. So much easier than trying to get into that. And that's why I get mad at people, whether you're talking about LeBron, Durant, anybody, and they try to use that of all time thing. And you're like, listen, when you can't even end the argument of today's time, then you can't even start getting into that. But anyways, Kevin Durant, that's a big blow right there for the Thunder as they look to get into the playoffs. All right, guys, we'll talk some more about all this stuff later. Let's talk some Browns, some NFL, some free agency, and more with Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com. He's with us every Friday, and he's here now. Jeff, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing fantastic, J-Rocc. Like you said, there's all sorts of fun stuff going on with the March Madness and spring training and, football, free agency. And after all this, I'm going to, once we get off the phone with you, I'm going to get all dressed up and go out for, I'm going to try to take a cue from these Be a Good Dad promos and take my girl to daddy-daughter date night for the 4th year in a row.
Well, there you go, man. Absolutely, man. So it's a lot of stuff going on this weekend. Before we even get into the football, man, how's your brackets looking? How'd you come out on day one here of this thing?
My bracket is looking surprisingly good.
Did you get in on ours, by the way? Did you get in one on ours before the time or no?
No, I didn't. I wasn't sure if I was eligible. I thought I was management or part of the office or something. So I didn't think I was allowed.
I sent you the link on Facebook, man. I said get in the contest. I love to have you guys in on it too, so that then we can make fun of you guys just as much as anybody else. But anyways, man, how'd you come out first day? What'd you do?
I got 13 out of 16, so I'm kind of
not bad.
Up near the top of the league that I'm in. So it's so far so good. Yeah, I was amazed that. I was really tempted to pick Iowa State to lose, and I didn't pull the trigger. If I did, I would be in first place.
I was right there with you. And not only did I talk myself into changing it an hour before the tournament yesterday, but then I said, well, I'm going to ride that gut feeling and put Iowa State all the way through to the Sweet 16. And if I would have just stuck with it, I would have had them out to begin with. Anyways, man.
I did too.
That's not bad, though, man. 13 out of 16 on the first day, especially when 2 of them, I'm sure, were the 14 and 3s. Do you have anything crazy happening today? I told you, I've got a 15, I've got a 14, and I've got an 11 winning today. Do you got anything like that?
I don't think I have anything too crazy. I have to kind of punch it up to be sure, but I think it's mostly going on. I have Kentucky going all the way. I think you almost have to have your head examined not to, because I would hate to pick some dark horse and then Kentucky wins. It's like, well, why did you do that?
I didn't pick a dark horse. I picked the team that's going to knock off Kentucky, my friend, and that would be Rock Chalk J-Rocc. The Kansas Jayhawks are going to be the team that ends the ride for Kentucky. It's going to end right here in Cleveland on March 28th, my friend.
It could happen. They definitely have the ability to do it. We'll just have to see. It's just amazing that'll be in Cleveland. That's going to be so much fun. I can't believe we're finally getting March Madness in Cleveland.
Yeah, well, I mean, we had the opening round a few years ago, but yeah, we got Sweet 16 and Elite 8 action. That's going to be some really good stuff here, and it's looking like it could be. If the 2 games that I've got in my bracket come to Cleveland for the first game or for the first day, it's going to be fantastic. I've got Kentucky, West Virginia, and Notre Dame, Kansas as the 2 semifinal games that are going to be here for the Sweet 16 in Cleveland, man. So if that's the case, those are some excellent games, because that would be 1 and 5 and 2 and 3 going at it there. And then, as I said, I've got Kentucky and Kansas as the regional final there for the Elite 8. So if those come true, that's 3 amazing. That should be 3 amazing basketball games right there.
Yeah, I'm looking now. I do have Wyoming, which is the number 12 seed, winning today over Northern Iowa.
What did I just tell you guys? Jeff, before you joined the show, just literally in the last segment, I said I picked Northern Iowa, but my gut is screaming go with Larry Nance and Wyoming, and I got a funny feeling that you're right. I think Wyoming is going to pull the upset, and if they do, my bracket stinks because that's my Sweet 16 team that gets knocked out. But I'm with you. Something tells me that Wyoming's going to get that victory today, man.
And I've also got a number 10 seed Davidson beating Iowa. So to make up for Iowa State winning, I have Northern Iowa and regular Iowa losing.
Brother, I've got Davidson in the Sweet 16, so I'm with you on that one there, man. And my other crazy one is my 14-11 coming up for Sunday. I've got Dayton and Albany winning their games today over Providence and Oklahoma, man. So I've got a 14-11 coming on Sunday. That'll be there's already one of those, so there's nobody can say it hasn't happened before, because it did. It happens tomorrow, so we'll see. Gonna be a lot of fun though today. A lot more hoops. Yeah. Cavs game we were just talking about. Tribe playing tonight, late night, 10:05 again, and the Browns. You know what? We get on them when they deserve it. Everybody piles on. I'm not going to act like they just signed Jerry Rice, but I will say that the Browns receiving core in the last 2 weeks became more competent and better than it has been in the last probably 7 or 8 years at least, since you at least had Braylon and Kellen Winslow on the same receiving core, because talent-wise they were at least some talented wide receivers. They now have added Hartline a few weeks ago, and you add Dwayne Bowe, who I think not only, and listening to what Ray Farmer said, the Browns are going to use Dwayne Bowe exactly the way I've been talking about. He's not being signed just as a wide receiver. He's being signed to play some tight end and some wide receiver. He's going to fill that Jordan Cameron kind of hybrid spot. And I think, hey, John, in the chat room, I'm with you. If you take these two, you bring back Hawkins as your slot receiver, because you got to figure Hartline and Bowe are your two. Hawkins is your slot receiver. Gabriel and Benjamin you can do all kinds of different packages with those two and draft one of the top 3 or 4 wide receivers. And the Browns, in my opinion, have an incredibly competent wide receiver core.
Yeah, I think that would work out great. And it really does seem that, Bowe is actually being signed to replace Cameron, even though it's a wide receiver for tight end thing. I'm kind of surprised that it's kind of trying to make that a little more literal, but that's not a bad idea at all. And, as long as you can go in with relatively realistic expectations about Dwayne Bowe, we're not getting the guy from 2011 who had 15 touchdowns. He's not coming
in for 1,500 yards. He's coming in and giving you 800 yards or so, and that's the way I'm looking at it. I'm with that. Show me how many 800-yard receivers the Browns have had over the last few years.
Sure, if people can realize that, that's fine. I mean, he's not going to be one of the top receivers in the league, but if he can be a competent leader of the wide receiving core, see, I think with him and Hartline, you're definitely not going to have the problems that we had last year with Josh Gordon running the wrong route. I mean, there's going to be a lot of experience and professionalism.
And it's a red zone threat. A red zone threat, too. You've got a big wide receiver that you can throw fade routes to. I'm just saying. Again, nobody is sitting here telling you that the Browns went out here and signed the second coming of Jerry Rice. But anybody that wants to tell me that this guy is done is absolutely wrong as well. He's stayed very productive throughout his career, even last season. Tell me what you want. I'll take last season right now for the money that the Browns are paying him. Bring me 60 receptions, bring me 800 yards, bring me 13 yards of reception. We don't get in the end zone anyway. I'll figure that part of it out. But people want to point that out. The year before, he had 5 touchdowns. Nobody says that. Everybody goes, oh, well, he didn't score last year. Okay, that's fine. He didn't score 15 touchdowns in 2013, but he scored 5. It doesn't matter. That's a function of your team and your offense more than anything else. Plain and simple, I'll take just what he has averaged the last 3 years. 60 catches, 800 yards. Give me that all day long. He's an upgrade over Miles Austin. He's an upgrade over whatever you had there at the position. Hartline is a possession receiver. If you think that just because they don't have the sticker value that you want, if you think Hartline, Bowe, Hawkins, and whoever the fourth receiver is, and I really hope it's John's pick over there, Devontae Parker. That's really the one. I like Parker more than I like Cooper, to be totally honest with you guys. But if you do that, that's a good receiver core. Exactly. And Bowe is 6'2.5". That was my point. He can actually go up and get the fade route in the end zone. He can actually go up over defensive backs instead of our crew of 5'11" wide receivers. So I'm just saying, guys, this is not Shangri-La, but it's definitely not the dearth that the Browns have had for the last few years. If they would have just put this wide receiver core with one of the better, well, I guess I'd say Hoyer maybe, or one of the other quarterbacks that was halfway decent, that's the problem, is they've never had the combination. Problem now is the same thing. Now who the hell's going to throw them the ball? But that's a different problem for a different day, because I think if you gave Hoyer these guys as a receiving core, that offense may have been even better last season than it was. Doesn't matter. At least they addressed it, because last year, what did they do? They went and signed Earl Bennett and Miles Austin, who Miles Austin did well, but Earl Bennett didn't even make the opening day roster. They didn't address the position last year at all. Now they did. The other cool thing is that you don't force yourself into taking the first wide receiver in the draft. If there's a higher player, if there's a better option, you can now take it and draft the second best wide receiver or whatever, because you're not stuck having to take wide receiver at 12, although I would, depending on who's there. But they don't have to, because they now at least have veteran options at the position. For the first time in forever, name me the last Browns wide receiver core that at least did not completely suck.
My mind goes all the way back to Slaughter and Langhorne, but I'm sure there's somebody, a little bit more recent than that. But I think
it's got to be in 2007.
2007.
2007, brother. When you had Jervicius here, when he had his little bit of productivity, you had Braylon Edwards as the big catch threat, you had Kellen Winslow as the tight end / wide receiver. That was probably the most talented core of pass catchers in the last 7 or 8 years. Would you agree, or am I forgetting about somebody?
No, I think you're probably right. I think that, I think Bowe is really going to improve things for Hawkins, too, because Hawkins is going to have better, more competent receivers around him, and I think he's going to kind of slip through the cracks, and I think that he's going to have another, maybe even a possibly better year. I think those three guys will all complement each other very well, assuming that they can stay healthy. And like you said, it takes some of the pressure off from a wide receiver, especially even from the fans in a way, because I know that deep down inside, Ray Farmer doesn't want to spend the number one pick on a wide receiver because I'm sure that he thinks that he can get somebody lower, somebody free agent to do well. So as much as all of us would love to see him take a top wide receiver, and I think that would really be great, especially since this offense is starving for young impact players. I think that I really wouldn't be surprised that now that they've got Bowe and Hartline, that they will probably go with linemen, an offensive lineman and maybe a defensive lineman with those first two picks, and take their chances with the hopefully good wide receivers that will be around later in the draft. That's just my hunch.
Yeah, you know what? I'm with you, too. And that's the thing. You know what? John in the chat room, that's kind of where I was going to go. The Browns gave themselves a little flexibility on where they draft a wide receiver, but they absolutely have to draft the position because Dwayne Bowe, being the age that he is, coming in 30, coming into the season, and because of Hartline, I think he's 27, maybe 28 coming into the season. Those guys are good for a year or two. You know what I mean? That's right. Good. You're good as long as you replace them now so that in a year or two, their replacement, that's the step that the Browns have never had in the process, the player development, so that when the free agents that you do sign are gone in a year or two, you've got them replaced by your guys. That's what Baltimore does so well. What Pittsburgh does so well is that when they sign a free agent, they draft the exact same position, and they go, okay, they usually draft a clone of the guy that they signed, and they go, okay, cool, because in about a year and a half, this guy's going to be ready, and then this guy's going to go walk in free agency, and then boom. That's what the good franchises do.
Yeah, it would be nice if the Browns could emulate the good franchises in one way. Yeah, that would be great, because who better for a young receiver like Parker or somebody like that to learn from than Dwayne Bowe, considering the track record he has, 3,000-yard seasons, and that's the kind of guy you want to learn from. Because you can come in, you can learn from the coaches, but when you see one of your peers out there who has really done it all, then that's really somebody you can look up to and sort of get some little pointers from that can help these guys down the road. Again, I just as much I really want the Browns to take one of these top wide receivers, but I just don't believe they're going to do it.
No, I agree with you there. And here's another thing. When you talk about Dwayne Bowe, and I keep everything in perspective with him, but let's be fair about this, because trust me, you guys, we can do the Browns thing, and when they screw up, they deserve to get nailed for it and all of that. And I'm, again, keeping Dwayne Bowe within the perspective that he is. But free agency hit, and everybody said the Browns this, the Browns that. We did too. We said, what's the strategy? Now, I'm not looking at any other positions. I don't agree with letting Brian Hoyer walk. I'm sorry. I don't. I like Brian Hoyer. I definitely like Brian Hoyer better than what we kept around to replace him. That nobody can argue with. Maybe you can argue with other quarterbacks, but you can't say you wouldn't rather have Hoyer than McCown, Manziel, and Shaw, the law firm that's coming into training camp. That's all I'm saying. But forget that. I'm just looking at wide receiver. Give me the list of guys that the Browns could have signed, because there wasn't a lot of high and I'm talking about guys that left their team and actually entered free agency, because some of the ones that you guys expected never became free agents, or they ended up going back to their original team. So There wasn't a ton of guys where you could go, well, the Browns took the 10th best wide receiver because they're cheap. They found their target. This was the guy that they targeted at wide receiver, and they went and got him. So, to be fair, you cannot excoriate the Browns for that, because they identified a guy they wanted. They went and signed him. That's all you can ask for, is what I'm saying. And he was at the top 5 of any list of available free agent wide receivers. And if they didn't get Bowe, look at what's coming next on the list of available free agent wide receivers. Yeah. And Miles Austin is probably the best thing you can get coming back after this. So keeping that in mind, I do I give the Browns credit for this signing because it's the best they could do at the position they needed right now.
Right, because a lot of these people are starting to get snapped up. I mean, we talked about Cecil Shorts, and he ended up going to Houston, if I'm not mistaken. And, I think it's a good sign that, we were talking about, the Browns overall as a free agent destination and that some teams are trying to avoid them. So it's nice to see that Bowe didn't shy away from signing with the Browns, saying, oh, my gosh, they're a dumpster fire. I don't want to be near them. But, no, he went ahead and signed with it, so that's a good sign.
I think it was Farmer. I think it was Farmer.
Yes, that's right. He has a connection with Farmer from when they were together in KC.
Yeah, so absolutely. I think that was the big swing.
So just the way that things have gone, of course, getting Carlos Dansby and Dante Whitner last year. Of course, this year they just also signed Tramon Williams. So it seems like they're getting some of these older veterans. And that's kind of a good sign when you talk about recruiting other free agents. Well, this guy's there and this guy's there. It can't be too bad if these respected veterans are deciding to go there. So you got some leaders, some experienced leaders who still want to be too old, on both sides of the ball. Of course, most of them are on the defensive side of the ball, but that's a good sign. I mean, Dwayne Bowe is a good guy to have on your team, just overall, as far as the overall look of the franchise.
And looking at things from the big picture, guys, and I know guys like Bruce are going to get mad at this and other people or whatever. All I'm saying is looking at the big picture, you can see exactly how this front office in the last 2 seasons is planning on building its roster. The key is the draft, because what they're doing is exactly what you and I just laid out. They've now, 7 in the last 3 years, around 29, 30-year-old veteran free agents that they've brought in at key positions. Whitner or Dansby, Kruger the year before, Bowe here, Tramon Williams, Starks from the Dolphins. My point is those are what they are. They're effective veteran 2-year stopgaps. All of them are going to be able to hold the boat. Your job is to get the right players in the draft to replace them, and that's where they've never gotten it right, and then you just end up worse than you were before, because now you've just got old guys that you pay a lot of money to because they're now 2 years, 3 years in, you still haven't replaced them, and then they take a hike, and now you're left with a bare-bones roster, and you're starting from scratch. And that's been the circle that never ends for the Browns. So this is great if you go draft. You go draft, and this year they have got now 14 picks in the draft. I said maybe you and I were talking a week or two ago, keep an eye on those compensatory picks, because that is what teams like New England, Baltimore, those teams that are very active in the draft, they use those to package and move around. The Browns now have a toolbox of 14 picks. Maybe 13, depends if they lose one more in free agency, but they get an extra draft pick for every player that has signed away. Say what you want. They did, I would say, if you were grading last year's draft now, which you really have to wait 3 years to grade a draft, but if you're grading it now, you'd have to say that they hit on probably 60% of their picks, and they're maybe looking like maybe another couple may pan out. But even if you say 50-50, 50-50 on 14 draft picks is most likely you can probably pull 6 or 7 actual stick-with-you quality players. Do you know what I mean? That's depth. That's 1/8 of your roster right there that you influx with young talent. And so if you hit right on the draft, and that's just 50-50, this can improve the Browns roster here through the draft, and that's clearly the plan. And again, it can all fall apart if they screw up the draft. That's the caveat to this whole thing. But even if you throw out the first round and say, okay, Ray Farmer's going to screw up the first round, odds are the Browns have put themselves in position. Now, that's different than actually pulling the trigger, but they've put themselves in position to bring in a whole lot of young bodies in the draft to compete into training camp. So that's all I'm saying, but this all sounds great. The plans always sound, everybody's got a plan. Even the team that goes 0-16 has a foolproof plan on March 20th. Whether that plan comes through at the beginning of the season, that's a whole nother story, brother. But right now, I see the plan, and it's at least a stopgap deal. So, and again, Dwayne Bowe is the best of what they could do in free agency at wide receiver. So take it and don't look a gift horse in the mouth, especially because some of the fans, it's funny, people forget that like they you can just remember them and remember what they talked about. I have so many people that interact with us. Some of the same people that 2 months ago said, boy, the Browns better be looking at this guy, that guy, Dwayne Bowe, this guy. Then 2 months later, they forget that they said that, and they're like, this guy, he's nothing. Like, man, 2 months ago, you said the Browns better sign somebody just like him. Now they signed him, but because the national narrative is that they're having another terrible offseason, this is a terrible signing. All I'm saying is just because the Browns stink a lot doesn't mean that everything that they do stinks. This is okay. The team's better off because of it. Now, let's see if they can get better in the draft. You know?
Right. Mm-hmm. And, sometimes it seems like they're losing a guy and getting a guy. The way they just lost the Tyler Rubin to Seattle, and then they got Starks from...
That's where I was going. No, right what you said. I was going to jump in right with you is Rubin to Seattle. For those of you that don't know, we mentioned it the other day that it was happening. It has happened official. I think it was just a 1-year contract. But Rubin going to go over to the Seahawks. I think that's a great move for the Seahawks. Absolutely. A great move. Rubin, I like him. If he can get past the injury, last year he was banged up in his legs. If he can play like the Rubin of old, man, in that Seattle defense, I think that's going to even beef up their front even more. Great signing for me by Seattle.
Yeah, and he's got to be happy to finally be able to make it to a playoff, possibly Super Bowl competitive team. I saw a stat that Rubin is one of only 9 guys to play 100 games for the Browns. Rubin is actually
he wanted to stay here. I told guys this the other day. I know whatever, personal stuff off the air, and I can tell you for a fact, straight from the man himself, Ataba Rubin wanted to be a lifer. He's one of those guys that appreciated the ability of playing in one jersey, no matter what jersey it was. He understands that there's something kind of unique about staying your whole career with one team in whatever your sport is. And he, like you said, over 100 games with the Browns. He thought for sure that he was a Cleveland Brown from beginning to end, and he really did want to stay here if at all possible. So I love a guy like that, man. He's a guy that you can't fault for leaving. He gave the Browns a lot of good years and so on, man. Go for it. And he's in the NFC. Go make the playoffs. Go succeed, man. I want to see Ataba Rubin go out there, and that's a great place that he's going. So I'm all about it. I know the Browns went in their direction, but man, I'd have found a way to bring him back. His price tag, though, and where they're trying to go, to them, they can replace him with a guy in the draft and pay a fraction of what they're going to pay him. And so I can understand that, too, because that's the trick in the NFL is it's not just age. It's age and price point, because in the NFL, they both become tipping points to where it has nothing to do with your talent on the field. When your price point reaches a point that we can get comparable value for a fraction of the money, it becomes a game of financials, and that's pretty much it. The Browns figure, we can replace you with a draft pick, and maybe you would be a little bit better in year one, but we're going to save a truckload of money down the stretch, And I'll tell you what, see, John in the chat room, I don't know if Phil Taylor ends up with this team by the time this offseason's over with either, though, man. That's quite possible. But I do like Starks, and I agree with you. They're definitely going to address the defensive line in the draft early. I expect one of the two sides of the line to be drafted in the first round. Whether they go offense or defense, it depends on who's on the board when it's their turn to pick. But I think two of their top 4 picks are one on each side of the line for sure.
Right, and one of the things we didn't mention, which was probably the best news of the week, was the fact that they re-signed John Hughes for 4 years.
Absolutely, that's where I was going next. Yes, yes.
That's something that kind of, people don't think about because, it's always best to get the shiny new toy, but, that's something that you've developed, and someone who's come along very well, along with Billy Wynn, too. So this is the kind of guy like Rubin that you've developed, and this is a guy who's not getting away, and they gave him some good money, and he definitely has what it takes to, be a starter and be a regular member of the rotation. So that's something that you've already got. And really, any time, especially when you have a situation where you have people like Buster Screen and Jabal Sheard, they come up and you've developed those guys, and then off they go. Well, if you can keep one of your own guys around, that's how you start to build a winning franchise. It's nice to see that happen at least once with Hughes. And what you were talking about with talking about, age and price points and stuff, that's really what happened to Dwayne Bowe. I'm sure the Kansas City Chiefs and their fans would have loved to have Dwayne Bowe around for the rest of his career.
Oh, yeah.
Lifer.
Oh,
but
yeah.
the problem is he was going to cost $14 million on the salary cap. And
you just signed Jeremy
Maclin. Going to work.
Yeah,
so
and they just signed Maclin, too.
Farewell at that point.
We were over top of each other, but they just signed Maclin too, so you could not have that much money tied up at the position. And you know what? We mentioned it the other day, but I'm glad you brought up John Hughes, because I talked about it the other day. I said what you did. I said that's one of those nobody talks about, but it really was a good re-signing, and I'll tell you why. This is the God's honest truth for those of you guys that say I just stick up for the Browns sometimes, and I don't. But for those of you that think that, this is the God's honest truth. If John Hughes signs with any other team in the offseason, it's one of those ones that the NFL guys talk about as being one of the best signings of the offseason. I'm dead serious. If John Hughes signs with the Patriots or with Seattle or something like that, it's a signing that around the NFL people would go, here's the unsung signing of the offseason. Like a lot of people are thinking Jabal Sheard could be the sleeper signing for New England here this offseason. I am one of those people. I think that Jabal Sheard is going to be a great, great signing. He's going to fit right in to that substitution defense that the Patriots use at linebacker. But Hughes is a big one because he's a good interior. His job does not require him to get the numbers that you would think of, but he's in the middle. He's a run stopper. He's a key part of that defensive line. He can occasionally get pressure, but that's not his game, and that's not what they have him do. But Johnny Hughes is a good guy. I always remind people, the night he was drafted, everybody was talking about different picks, and we were on the air that Saturday night, and Dr. Football said, the guy that you guys drafted that's going to be the one that's the best out of this draft, and it's arguable, is he mentioned Johnny Hughes and Travis Benjamin. But Johnny Hughes is definitely a good player, and that was a good little signing because you got to keep him somehow. As we said, you can't have the exits go completely out.
Right. So that's definitely somebody that you can build your team around. And now you've got, a younger guy. He's not somebody like Whitner, someone like Jansen. He's a younger guy like Joe Hayden. So you have those two, young pieces on your defense. So that's something you can start to do. But again, a lot is, like you've mentioned, a lot is going to come down to the draft because you talk about, the great teams that the Browns want to be someday. And they just consistently, draft well. They know what they're doing as far as the players. And you just have to hope that, Ray Farmer, that was supposed to be one of his strengths, and it still could be. He did pretty well, like you said, and, the jury's still out in some cases. But, if he can have this much quantity and turn it into, 60 or 65% quality, then you've got, a lot of good young guys, and they're not going away. They're going to be here for at least the first 4 years. And that's how you start to build things. And, it's just difficult because you look at the way the season ended and you look at the exoduses that we had and, we're replacing a few people, and it's hard to get yourself excited to think that, we're going to be better than 7-9 next year. It's hard to sell yourself on that lie. But you just have to think that eventually if this team can be smart with their draft picks, that's going to be the key to eventually turning this around and to making this a team that free agents definitely want to play for.
Seriously, and you said it. We've mentioned the draft a million times. To me, the next place for us to sit down and make and then we can really sit down and lay out some, I'm happy with this, I'm not happy with that, is after the draft. Because I think that is when you'll get a clearer picture of how the offseason, because at that point then maybe you grab a few street free agents, grab some undrafted guys and bring them into camp, where you may go find your Isaiah Crowells and things like that. But then we'll really have an idea because who knows. Yesterday, Bruce in the chat room sent me an article coming out, and a lot of people I think were sharing some of these stories coming out of San Diego because San Diego used one of their interviews with Mariota, and they get limited pre-draft interviews, so they're drafting pretty low, which means that they might be anticipating making a move to go up and get him. And then some people are saying, then the Browns should go in and trade for Phillip Rivers. And I say, calm that down. And I'll tell you why. Right. Phillip Rivers is a free agent next offseason. So there's not number one to me, if the Chargers make a trade and they go up and they get Mariota, Mariota is not ready. Even the people that like him say he's probably not ready to hit the ground running first. Now, you can always throw him out there. Hey, that's what teams do. You can throw him out there if you want. But if I've got 1 season of contract left for Phillip Rivers, my ideal scenario is to draft Mariota and have Rivers teach him in his final season how to be my quarterback. Then I pass the buck halfway through, 3/4 of the way through the season perhaps, or if we're going to the playoffs, which is what the Browns didn't do, then you leave things alone and you go, hey, this kid will be the quarterback next year. We're going to go with what happens. But Phillip Rivers walks. So why would the Browns trade? Why would you want the Browns to trade for a quarterback who can walk? If you want the Browns to entertain Phillip Rivers, then just go after him in free agency next year and make him an offer and bring him in to be, maybe instead of going after all these pie-in-the-sky quarterbacks, maybe that's your 2 or 3 year solution is you go get Phillip Rivers and you get the last couple good years out of him and then you bridge into somebody else. I'm just saying, people running off with that. Yesterday I saw some tweets and some people like, yeah, go get Phillip Rivers. And I'm like, number one, why would they? Number two, why would San Diego? Because he's walking anyway. What are you going to get for Phillip Rivers in a trade when he's in his walk year? What are you going to get? A 5th round draft pick maybe or something like that? So, and that's the thing, Bruce. See, I don't think that Rivers is enough to dangle to move up in the draft. I absolutely don't see it. And even if you did, the Browns' 12 pick is not enough. So what are you going to do if you're San Diego? You're going to somehow trade Phillip Rivers for the 12 pick, and then I don't think that San Diego's pick and the 12 pick is enough to get them ahead of any of the other teams that are going to draft Mariota. So what good does it do them to deal with the Browns unless the Browns were going to trade you both of your first-round picks for Phillip Rivers, which they're not going to do. So the thought doesn't make sense to me because even if the Browns were a willing trade partner, what are they going to give you that's enough for you to move up high enough to draft Mariota? I just don't see that part of it. Otherwise, maybe there's something to talk about, but or if it comes with a sign and trade where he agrees to an extension as part of the trade, maybe. But even then, I don't see the Browns pick being enough. Am I missing something, or is that enough for them to leapfrog teams? Because then, hey, Chip Kelly may want to jump in there at that point too. There's a lot of room between where the Browns draft and Marcus Mariota, in my opinion.
Right. There's so many things that could happen. There's so many dominoes that would have to fall.
Right.
That you really don't want to make any kind of commitment like that. You really want to hang on to these picks as long as you can, unless you just have something that you really absolutely can't refuse. Because you talk about Mariota not being ready, it's just like, there's just so few guys that come out of college and are ready to play at the NFL level and succeed. I mean, Andrew Luck was one.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson turned out to be one. RG3 seemed like one, but then he's had tons of problems since. So it's just so rare. So even if you're going to draft somebody like Mariota or even Jameis Winston, it doesn't mean that you just plop them right in there and they're ready to go. It's just such a huge learning curve at this level, as of course we all know. I really like the idea of possibly getting Rivers next year and just getting him as a free agent. Of course, there's going to be a lot of competition for him. But, there's always so much competition for great quarterbacks. And you talk about how people are trying to maybe go after Mariota. I mean, people talk about his flaws here and there, but, on draft day, people get that itch to get that quarterback. and then everybody starts lining up for those top 2 quarterbacks.
Nobody in Berea saw Johnny's flaws last year, that's for sure, man. They couldn't get up there and go after him quick enough, you guys. Jeff Gorman from Browns101.com talking some Browns, some NFL, some NCAA with us here. You're listening to the Sports Fix. J-Rocc with you. Update on the tournament. Second half action. We're getting into the second half of the second half. Kansas up 15, double-digit lead for them. They better get strong because I need you guys to knock off the Kentucky Wildcats. Michigan State, one of my sleeper teams in the tournament, they've got a double-digit lead as well over Georgia, 35-22. And Wyoming, that game is just tipped off. Wyoming with an early lead in that one against Northern Iowa. Should be a lot of fun today as the tournament rolls on. Of course, as I said, got Cavs tonight. Look at this, Jeff. We're going to get off the air. I'm going to wrap up the show. I'm going to go watch about 13 basketball games back to back here. Then it's going to hit the Cavs game. We're going to watch the Cavs game tonight just around the time that one ends up. While I'm still in the middle of watching those other 13 basketball games, there's an Indians game going on tonight. I mean, it's nirvana for me, my friend, man. So this is going to be an enjoyable Friday and roll right into the weekend. I don't know about you. Oh, you've got the father-daughter thing going, but
that's right.
I'm going to sit back. I'm going to do the father-son thing, and I'm going to go, this is what we do 3 weekends of the year in March. We watch all of these basketball games and love it.
Yeah, I guarantee some of those daddies tonight at the dance are going to have their phones out and be checking on how the teams in their bracket are doing. I'm going to try to be good dad and not be one of them.
Absolutely. Jeff Gorman, my man from Browns101.com. A couple of things real quick as we roll out of here. News in the NFL. Did you guys see the Darren Sharper? Another set of rape charges filed against him. Now Las Vegas has been added to the towns. He's already got rape charges in Los Angeles, New Orleans, and Phoenix, Arizona. Now Las Vegas has added charges. They claim that Sharper assaulted 2 women back in January of last year. I know some of the other charges against him. It's involved roofies and date rape, and supposedly, according to all of these charges, and this is now 4 different cases in 4 different states. He's made a profession of the last decade or so of roofing girls left and right and doing. I don't know. It's amazing to think if it was a giant coincidence and this was all one big, he didn't do anything. Hey, that's the legal system that we have, and you're innocent until proven guilty. But man, I mean, you look at the similarities of the cases, people that don't know each other and have never met, that have exact same stories of the modus operandi. Looks like he had his game down tight. But man, another state added here to these rape charges against Darren Sharper.
I know, it's horrible. It's really just like the accusations against Bill Cosby. I mean, you have a lot of people who are from all different walks of life and different time periods telling the same story about the same person. It's pretty frightening.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And and the scary thing, I mean, it's our society's got scary people all over it, but you just think that, here's a guy, this isn't just a guy who was in the shadows, just you or I, nobody knows us, you just slide in and out. I mean, this is a guy that's right there. I mean, Aaron Hernandez, all of these guys. I mean, you can go O.J. Simpson. These are all public figures, but this is a guy who had the smile and charmed his way in and out left and right, and you had it all going for him, made millions of dollars and had a TV job and all of this stuff, man. And to think that behind the scenes, man, he could have potentially been an incredibly evil, nasty person, man. And it just goes to show that you just never know anybody, and you just never know.
I know, it's really bad considering he had so much going for him. It's like this didn't really have to happen. He had so many advantages in life that he didn't have to resort to this in any way, but there's obviously something wrong here.
Yeah, like Aaron Hernandez. I say that all the time. In the machismo, macho, testosterone-driven world of football, to think of, man, I speculate, and of course it's just, fantasy booking or whatever, but I think back and I go, man, he was a disaster waiting to happen to another player, because when you think about this, and again, proven until innocent, until proven guilty, but
right,
when you think about the fact that he allegedly murdered a man because he spilled a drink on his shoes, drink on his shoes at a club, and Aaron Hernandez had been telling friends for the last few months that he was feeling disrespected in the NFL by other NFL players, and people weren't giving him his props, and he wasn't getting his just due. And then he was in a club one night in Boston, and this guy spilled a drink on him and didn't apologize fast enough. And according to the charges, Aaron Hernandez waited till about 2:30 in the morning, followed the guy out of the parking lot, pulled up to the light and blew him away, man. A drive-by shooting because the guy didn't give him his props and spilled a drink on his foot. And my thought has always been, think about getting hazed in the NFL when you're a rookie and you're, all the things that you go through. To know that this guy was living so gangster, and he was. I mean, as the testimony keeps coming out, he was a legit gangbanger, not like I used to be and now I'm in a better place. Like, I never left it. I just brought my money and my influence to my homies, you know? And I'm not saying this in any disrespectful way. He brought the streets with him instead of leaving them behind. And I always go, man, how close was some player that may not have even realized it, who may have, got into it with him or tried to punk him out in the locker room? How close was that guy to coming up with a gun after practice and blowing you away? Because he ended up doing it later. And I go, man, he talked about how he was frustrated with the disrespect he was getting in the NFL. That story could have went a different way. It could have been a fellow player. I'm just saying, here all along, he's getting a $40 million contract or whatever, and he's going to Pro Bowls and everything else. And that guy was a truly jacked up individual all along. It just goes to show in sports, especially, just because somebody's rich, famous, popular, well-known, good-looking, it doesn't matter. They could truly be one screwed up individual the whole time.
Right, and the sad thing is, it's really unnecessary. I mean, when you are good enough to play in the NFL, even for a few years, it's really like you've hit the lottery. I mean, you're going to play for 6-7 years at the most. You're not going to have a really long career, but you're going to make so much money that you can actually leave that life behind. You can leave the hood and the ghetto and the gangsters and all that. You can leave all that behind. You can rise yourself above that. You can get your family out of that. You can move them out of the hood, if you want, if you have the means to do so. But it's just so terrible that, despite all this money, he wasn't able to take that lifestyle out of himself. It's just really a complete waste of life when actually football provided a way to cause all of this not to really have to happen.
Absolutely. And I mean, people's lives were lost because of Aaron Hernandez. Let me clarify. It doesn't matter where you come from. It's not just hood and gangster and all of that. I mean, look at you go back 30, 40 years. Art Schleister, for those of you guys that remember him, had a huge future, or at least thought to have a future in front of him. Ohio State quarterback, all of that. That's a guy that couldn't stop gambling, couldn't stop writing bad checks, couldn't stop doing all the things that, look at him. I'm just saying, you could pick out 1 million of these guys that have gone bad.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want the conversation to look like we're intentionally going after one play. No, I mean, it's a lot of them. But you see, just in general, as you said, the inability to step away, and you go, come on, man, you had everything there. No matter where you came from, man, it was erased. You can't blame your upbringing, your past, your present. You can't blame anything because you got over the hump. You achieved. You set yourself. You talk about that money. Chris Borland played 1 year in the NFL. That boy will never have to worry about money again, assuming that he's responsible. Again, he will. He didn't make that much, but he doesn't have to go get a job at the 7-Eleven tomorrow. He can invest some of that. He's got time to find himself his next career, is what I'm saying. And he played 1 season. So, yes, you can definitely do that. And I don't know how we went down that road, but we did. And we'll circle back to it. Jeff Gorman, man, great weekend. Hey, you have some fun. Go get ready. Do your daddy-daughter dance and go have some fun. We'll catch up on Tuesday and talk some Tribe.
Sounds great. We'll have a lot to talk about after a real fun weekend. Thanks a lot, man.
You got it. Jeff Gorman, Browns and Indians 101.com, always with us on Tuesdays and Fridays here on the Sports Fix, talking various things. Another good conversation today. Hey, guys, let's take our final break of the day. Do not go away. Let's come back and wrap this bad boy up. We'll set the stage. Cavaliers tonight. We've got NCAA games going on. Vikings know who they're going to be playing next in their tournament. Indians back late night. Wasn't the best night last night, but that's okay. It blended in with the March Madness, and they don't count anyway. But we're going to do it again tonight. We'll talk about that and more. Get you ready for the weekend when we come back here on the Sports Fix.
And now, a very special announcement from the Sports Fix.
Black bears weigh between 200 and 500 pounds. Brown bears weigh between 300 and over 1,000 pounds. Black bears run away from you. Brown bears run at you. When attacked by a bear, simply lie still on the ground and cover your face and head with your hands. When the bear has finished batting you around and mauling you, contact the U.S. Forest Service.
And that was a message from the Sports Fix.
Guys, want to take just a second as we head into this break and remind you about the official business printing source of the Sports Fix, our friends at Signs and Ship. Signs and Ship, I'm telling you, Chris and Pam, they've taken care of me since day one, and they can do the same for you. Whether you're a small business that's already been established and you're looking to grow to that next level and expand your business, or perhaps you've got an idea that you just know is going to be a great business and you need to figure out how to brand it and how to promote it and put it out there, Signs and Ship is the place for you. If you need a logo, they can create one for you. They have a fantastic graphic designer. Business cards, signs, banners, yard signs, mobile advertising, anything you can think of that you need to promote your business, they've got it at Signs and Ship. The best thing about them, too, is each of their locations, whether it's the home base here in Elyria, Ohio that I work with, or their spots in Virginia, Florida, and Pennsylvania, it's all local sourced. Very important to me because we all understand that small business is the lifeblood of the community. So check them out, signsandship.com, or call Chris and Pam today, 440-323-6060, the home office in Elyria, Ohio. Signs and Ship, quality printing at affordable prices.
It's the Sports Fix. We'll be right back.
Fantasy sports lovers, you put so much time, hard work, and effort into playing week to week that it quickly stops being a fantasy and starts getting real. Real time spent making real decisions, creating real victory.
I'm the greatest man in the world!
And when the smoke clears, you want to show off those victories with a real prize.
I mean, a really real prize.
Yeah. Nobody does that like Fantasy Jocks. The crew over at Fantasy Jocks have beautiful, high-quality, and heavy-duty championship belts, rings, trophies, and so much more for all your fantasy sports needs.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious!
Football, baseball, hoops, you name it, they have it. Plus, they have awesome draft kits and party supplies to make all your preseason activities the envy of everyone. If your league needs a ring, belt, or trophy, or you want to upgrade what you already have, there's literally only one place to go. If you're going to be a fantasy jock, do it right.
It's mine, the most magnificent belt ever created, and it's mine.
With America's fantasy sports superstore, fantasyjocks.com.
What's your fantasy?
No football? No problem at Harry Buffalo North Olmsted. From their awesome Wing Mondays to every single Cavaliers and Buckeye Hoops games in full HD.
Kyrie split the D, goes inside, teardrops it home right down Euclid.
That's way up in there for two.
The excitement never stops. Every day of the week brings a different set of food and amazing drink specials.
And now,
fans, Harry Buffalo North Olmsted is the home for every UFC pay-per-view live on the big screens.
Let's get it all!
And let's not forget their mouth-watering trademark, the Bison Burger.
They sure are good.
Nobody does bison like Harry Buffalo. The perfect combination of healthy and delicious.
Hey there, eat up, y'all. You's as good church-going folk. Y'all deserve a little treat.
What are you waiting for? Get to Harry Buffalo, just outside Great Northern Mall today. Harry Buffalo. Join the herd.
Hi, this is Dean Chenoweth, head coach of Cleveland's Lake Erie Monsters, and you're listening to the Sports Fix.
Welcome back to the Sports Fix final segment here as we wrap things up. Listen, I know it was late night Tribe Baseball. J-Rocc back with you here as we get back into the show. I know it was late night Tribe Baseball, so maybe some of you didn't see the clips. You owe it to yourself today to go look at a couple of the defensive plays from last night. I'm telling you, man, Lenny Chisenhall made a nice stop. And the double play with Santana and Yan Gomes, very, very slick as well, man. I know Santana, Mike Brandenberry, and I can have that defense conversation that we've been waiting to have here coming up pretty soon. But so my difference is with Santana, and I totally get Mike's point. Mike takes away from Santana because he lacks as he says it, lacks the range to reach balls that other first basemen would get. And I say that's a different range of holding things against guys. Like I could see the errors, and make it, handling the plays that come your way. And I guess zone rating, I understand this is in that advanced metrics, but to me, there's a difference between holding the mistakes a guy makes against him and saying he's, below average because somebody else can do more. That's different. I don't know. And that's the way I look at that when you say, oh, well, certain guys can reach balls. Of course. And certain guys are taller than others and can jump higher and reach higher balls. It's saying in any sport, yeah, that's true. And I guess I get you when you look at the average first baseman or whatever, you want to get into your zone ratings and stuff. But when you go, Carlos Santana doesn't get the balls that other people can. Okay, it's not everybody that can get to those balls. It's the better first baseman. So say that he doesn't play as good as the best first baseman. Say that he doesn't play as good as the, upper first baseman. I'll give you that. But to say he's not a good first baseman because he doesn't get to the balls that some other people can is like saying, Scottie Pippen's not a good basketball player because he doesn't make the game-winning shots that Michael Jordan does. I totally made that up off the top of my head, just trying to make a somewhat similar scenario. It's like, that's not a comparison to make at all. So that's my only thought. Mike and I'm going to save it because Mike is not here to talk back to me and shut me down and tell me all the reasons that I don't know what I'm talking about. So I'll have that conversation with them. But nice little turn and two there. Chisenhall as well made a nice hole in the stop in the hole yesterday. Indians dropped one last night to Seattle. A little bit of good, a little bit of bad in that one. Carlos Carrasco back in there. He missed a game with the flu the other day. 1 run, 6 hits. He was really in and out of trouble. Had the bases loaded at one point. Was able to. That's where that double play came in that I was talking about. Was able to get out of that. After the game, Terry Francona said, if that's a regular season game, that saves a win right there. That double play was sweet. The Indians, and as I said, lost this one here. TJ House, that one got me a little bit because I love House, and I've been barking him up to the 3rd spot in the rotation. He had been doing so well this spring, and you know what? I like guys to stub their toe. I hate when things are just going flawless because then you're less prepared for when the bad times come. House was doing great. He had been holding guys to less than a 150 batting average. I mean, obviously we're talking about 10 innings, so but he had struck out 10 in less than 10 innings, no walks. He had been looking well yesterday, gave up a couple runs, gave up a double, had some trouble with his sinker. Terry Francona was talking about that after the game, so I'd like to see a bounce back from TJ House the next time out there. But how about Francisco Lindor? My man, talk about Mike Brandenberry needing to be on the show. He needs to be on the show right now. Yesterday, had this big, long conversation about how it's time to pull the trigger on Francisco Lindor. And, man, every day, this kid gives you another reason why you brush that off and you go, yeah, but let's let him wait a little longer. And then every day, it seems like he does something else that makes you go, man, can we keep saying let's wait a little bit longer? I mean, because he just keeps going, okay, you tell me to wait. I'm going to just keep playing, and you go ahead and tell me to keep waiting. Yesterday, what did he do? Comes up and hits a home run when it looks like he's going to have a day off, man. He's hitting over 300 for the spring, couple home runs, couple of RBIs, playing some great D. He's just been all over the place. Francisco Lindor is making it so difficult on the Indians not to put him on the opening day roster, man. And I'll tell you, you know what? As much as part of me says there's some buzz in bringing him up later in the season, there's a little bit of juice that comes with it in the energy that he brings if you wait. And I really think that's a card you can play in the doldrums of the middle part of a long baseball season that would put some electricity in the lineup and in the ballpark in the middle of the dog days of July and August is the debut of Francisco Lindor. And I think that could be a jolt as good as making a trade or bringing in some energy that way. And that's part of why I say, hold it off just a little bit longer. Hold it off just a little bit longer. But, man, there's something to be said for the buzz that could come with him being there opening day and getting out there right off the bat and never looking back, Derek Jeter style. You know what I mean? El Capitan, never look back. Maybe Lindor's that guy too. Maybe he is that can't miss. Everybody's been calling him that for years. I mean, is it time? Mike Brandenberry got me going yesterday. I got off the air and I said, I was totally cool with Lindor just chilling for about half the season. I get done talking to you, and I'm ready to pull the trigger too. But yesterday, he jacks one out of the park again, continues to show that whatever you put in front of him, he's going to attack it, and he's going to continue to make it very, very hard not to make that decision. And Mike said it best. The conversation that we were having on the show yesterday, that's the conversation that's now happening on a daily basis in the front office with Terry Francona and those guys in Goodyear right now, because they're saying the same thing. They are saying the exact same thing, man. And we'll see. We'll see what happens, man. Because, see, here's the thing, Bruce. Okay, real quick, I was going to go off of that. Bruce in the chat room just said, not if he can't play every day. Well, what makes it different in the middle of the season? Because everybody's anticipating that the Indians are going to have a successful season. Unless the bottom falls out, it's not like you call him up in June and you get rid of the guy who's helped you play into first place so far. You know what I mean? I'm just saying. If he wasn't with the team at the beginning, the only way that argument makes sense is if you're going to bring him in because things are going bad, and you're going to bring him up halfway through and he's going to start and play. Because if the Indians are hot, let's say that the Indians are in first place on June 1st, July 1st, whatever day you think they may call him up. Let's say the Indians are playing above 500, good ball, just a good, solid first half of the season. You bring up Lindor and bench somebody? You bring up a player and change the lineup that's been playing well and has you in first place for no reason? Absolutely not. You guys just excoriated the Browns for doing the exact same thing with their quarterback. Why would you do that? Why? There's no way. So if he gets called up mid-season, he's still going to sit unless you make the change and you bring him up. You're only going to make the change and bring him up and make changes if you need a spark, if you need energy, or if your season has not gone the way you expect it to go. To me, no matter how big of a prospect Lindor is, if you're going to leave him down, and then you're going to call him up later, and the Indians are being successful, then that makes no sense at all to bring him up and move somebody out of the way, because obviously that person... Now, if there's a hole, if the whole team's doing well and Ramirez is the problem, okay, that makes sense. Or Kipnis or something like that. But I'm just going off the assumption today, on March 2nd, that possibility leaves nowhere for him to play daily, and he'll still be sitting every other day. He'll play 3 or 4 days a week, and then he'll sit some, and he'll pinch hit, and he'll maybe do this and that. And the other point is if that's the case, then you could start there from day one. You could start there from day one. So the thought process of bringing him in later in the season changes too, because if you're doing well, then you're going to have to assimilate him in without changing what you've been doing. And if you're doing poorly, then the season hasn't gone the way any of us plan. And then you just move somebody out of the way, you bring him up, and we plan for next season. I am in no way interested right now in talking about that scenario whatsoever. But hey, man, like I said, you force things to happen. JK, who, by the way, Jonathan Knight had a business deal. He couldn't get with us here this morning. He'll be back next week. He made a great comparison a couple weeks ago to Manny Ramirez, 94, trying to come up and being held back, and Hargrove was holding off on pulling the trigger because you had Wayne Kirby as the stopgap. And I believe the year before, Hargrove got his way, and John Hart finally in the offseason said, listen, I don't care what you say. Manny Ramirez is breaking camp with this team. Manny Ramirez is ready. And they found a way to make it work. And as we know, by the next season, it was so on and so forth with Manny Ramirez. But that was that scenario. The Indians were fully prepared to go the Lindor route and go one more season with him down and then getting called up midway through. And John Hart said no. Listen, you're the manager and I respect it, but I'm just telling you as your boss that Manny Ramirez will be breaking with the team and that he is going to be on the roster here. So maybe the Indians reach that point where they just go, man, the play has absolutely forced it to happen. The thing that bothers me is that all the stuff we're talking about is baseball, and I think Mike Brandenberry hit it on the head when he said that this has nothing to do with the Indians' decision. Their decision has nothing to do with is he ready, where's he going to play, any of that. It just simply has to do with saving the service time, with starting the clock a little bit later for his arbitration and all of that stuff and free agency. If that's the heart of it, that's a crappy way of making the decision. If it comes down to the baseball, okay. But I know, come on, we all know that that's part of it too. And, really, how much of a difference does it make? We're talking a couple of months. The service time's going to start one way or the other. But I do think that that's a driving part behind it. Anyways, Indians tonight, 10:05 in the middle of March Madness. They're going at it. Trevor Bauer taking on the Angels. Hector Santiago, the lefty for the Angels, will be starting tonight. Game's going to be carried on. The Angels are webcasting it, so you'll have to go check it there. I don't believe there's any other coverage of it. Bauer, Swarzak, Kyle Crockett, Austin Adams, and C.C. Lee are the pitchers scheduled to go today. All of those guys have, playing for shots here in the bullpen. I agree with Mike yesterday. I like C.C. Lee as definitely a guy. I liked what he did, man, and I could see him bouncing back in there. But those guys going tonight, 10:05 against the Angels. When we come back Monday, we'll obviously have a weekend of Indians baseball to talk about. We'll have a weekend of March Madness like you wouldn't believe, because we'll have the second round matchups here. Does Ohio State upset Arizona and advance to the Sweet 16? I say no, but the Buckeye in me says yeah, and I'm going to enjoy watching it. Let's see. Hey, if D'Angelo Russell is the best player on the court, then the Buckeyes can knock off Arizona and put themselves dancing in the Sweet 16. We'll find out this weekend. Does Kentucky go down before Cleveland? We'll know about that. We'll know who the teams coming to Cleveland next Thursday are. We'll be able to talk about all of the first round stuff. Whose brackets will survive the flameout this weekend as the madness continues here. Cavaliers getting, as we said, back into action at the Q. 7:30 tonight against the Pacers. Last matchup of the regular season, although maybe not the last matchup for these teams, because there's a very real possibility Indiana's in that grouping of 2 or 3 teams that may end up meeting the Cavaliers here for the first round of the playoffs. So tonight will be a good one, and I want to see how the Cavs match up here. Although you're not going to get your best view of this thing because LeBron won't be playing, unless I'm crazy. But LeBron questionable here right now. Yeah. So, hey, look, my bracket picked Northern Iowa. John in the chat room brings up the score. He's right. So far, Wyoming not looking too good. My gut wasn't right, maybe. They're down early double digits to Northern Iowa. Hey, my bracket has Northern Iowa going to the Sweet 16, so I hope I'm right about that. But just something this morning. My Larry Nance goggles, that's a great point. My Larry Nance goggles must have got me excited, but who knows? I'm not going to say anything else because we could be back here on Monday going, what about Wyoming? They were down 13, and then here they go. So, but right now, that prediction is not looking too good, guys. All right, let's see. Anything else I wanted to talk about? CSU Vikings before we go. Vikings know their next game. We'll preview it more on Monday. Their game will be Monday. Second round of the collegeinsider.com tournament. Cleveland State takes on the New Jersey Institute of Technology, NJIT. Vikings knocked off Western Michigan in their first game, 86-57. Vikings hadn't won a postseason tournament game since 2011, and they knocked off Vermont in the first round of the NIT there. We're going way back, Norris Cole days there. New Jersey Institute of Technology, 19-11 this season. They knocked off New Hampshire in the first round of the tournament. A win on Monday gives the Vikings their 20th win of the season. It would be only their 11th 20-win season in the entire history of the school. 6 of them coming in the last 8 years, which really is a testament to what Coach Waters has done with that program over there at Cleveland State. First time ever that these two teams will meet. It is the 200. This is just a weird fact. CSU sends you those weird facts. It's the 260th different school that the CSU Vikings will play in their history. Man, how do you even keep track of a stat like that? However, if you're looking for a good sign, the Vikings have won their last 4 games against first-time opponents. So we'll find out. This year they played all 4 of those games against first-time opponents, and they won each of them. So let's see what happens with that. We'll talk about it on Monday. Can they continue on in their March Madness? I know if they play like they did the other day, the New Jersey Institute of Technology will be worried more about technology and less about basketball, because the Vikings blew out the Broncos the other day and played like a team that was very not happy to be playing in the third best tournament this postseason. Let's see, Monsters in Toronto, wrapping things up here. Doug Plagans will be with us next week. We've just dealt with all kinds of stuff this week with getting Dougie P on the show, but we'll get him back across the border. Got Grand Rapids is coming up here early next week for the Monsters. Right now, though, 7 p.m. tip-off. You've got Toronto, final game of the 5-game road trip for the Monsters. They're across the border, north of the border. And the Marlies and the Monsters drop the puck at 7 p.m. tonight. You can catch that across the Monsters Radio Network. Doug Plagans, my man, will be calling all of the action here. Monsters still sit 6 points out of the final playoff spot. With a couple dozen here left to go. I think they've got about a dozen and a half left to go on the season. Let's see, Monsters sit at 61 games. So the Monsters have 15 games left on the season. 63 points right now. 8th place, Hamilton is the target. 69 points needed right now to catch up. 6 points back. And don't forget, a couple of games in hand for the Monsters. They've played 2 less games than just about every team in front of them in the standings. Coming up tonight, you've got Toronto. They're 1 up in the standings on the Monsters. That's how you do it. You climb the ladder 1 rung at a time. Toronto's 2 points ahead of the Monsters for 11th place. They can beat the Marlies and grab those 2 points right here tonight. You cannot continue to lose points to the teams in between you. Otherwise, you're done. We did this last year with the Monsters. Too little, too late. Let's see what they do here. Again, 7 p.m. is the puck drop tonight for the Monsters and the Marlies. Doug Plagans with the call of the action on 1420 WHK and across the Monsters Radio Network. Back at the Q tomorrow, 7 p.m. You guys want to get down there, check out some Monsters hockey action. Of course, they won't be there next week, all week, because of the NCAA tournament. They start a 3-game road trip as they're on the back end of 8 road games in 9. 3 in a row next week. We'll catch up with Doug on Tuesday, and we'll look ahead to Rockford and the 2 in Charlotte. At Toronto tonight, Grand Rapids back at the Q tomorrow for the Monsters. NCAA games. Cavs hoops this weekend. You've got the NCAA tournament going on. You name it, there is something for all of you to get into here in the sports weekend coming up. Sunday, we were talking about Milwaukee earlier, Eddie Jansen and I. Milwaukee Cavaliers, that's next up for them. Milwaukee in a complete free fall here down the last 10 games, only 2 of 8. Cavaliers after tonight, 3 in a row on the road. Milwaukee, Memphis, Brooklyn next week. So when we come back Monday, we'll have the Pacers and the Bucks in the rearview mirror. Dan Wismar from the Cleveland Fan will be here. We'll look back at March Madness. Are we looking back or ahead for the Ohio State Buckeyes? We'll see. Sweet 16 will be in the front of the focus for us next week. Tribe, Monsters, Cavs, Vikings, Buckeyes, you name it, we're on it Monday. Guys, enjoy the weekend. I'm out of here, man. Go watch some hoops. That's what I'm going to do. And come on back here Monday, live. Same bad time and same bad channel, baby. Noon Eastern across the Sports Fix Radio Network. We love you, Cleveland. Hoop it up all weekend long. And we'll see you Monday right here on The Fix.
The way you flip the boards, gotta make it happen. Come on, really rip the chords, gotta make it happen. Come on, Cavs, gotta make it happen. Come on,
Cavs. Yeah. Let me take it back to Cleveland, where all of the peeps, yeah. Grind all night, sleep once in a leap, yeah. Never had a beach, yeah. City of the hard knocks. Let one of us make it out the city, bet we all rock. Coming out the east side, where they do not play much. Clouds always looming, we don't see the sun rays much. Still about the paper, gotta make sure the lights on. Just a mistake on the lake to you, but this is my own. Tatted it on my arm, that I represent that. Homie, I'm from Cleveland, I will tell the president that. Hardest, yeah, we been there. Made some of the greats here. Midwest best, this is MGK's, yeah. Shouts out to St. Clair, Uptown, yes, y'all. Heading to the flex, get it popping up with Steph Flaws. Whole state monster, this the home of King James. We are not the empire, but this is where the kings play. Cleveland, let's go.
We rep our city.